Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ion Canon Podcast, your home on the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network for in-depth discussion on lore, the High Republic, and the whole canon of the galaxy far, far away. My name is Joel, and joining me across the north of the continent, my co-host and friend Matthew. Matthew, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, all things considered. Yeah, up here on the other side of the line of the Barnes and Noble line is what I'm calling it now. There we go.
Or we call it the 51st state of America.
Oh, come on.
I kid.
If only Barnes and Noble existed in Canada. That's all I'll say.
I wish I had a Barnes and Noble closer by. I mean, we do. We have one, but it's a little further to the mall. I used to have one so close to my house I could just wheelchair to. It was.
I'll explain why in a few in later on the show, but
it was so good. Yeah. So yes, today we are going to be talking about Star Wars Celebration Europe. It happened, and we got all the Paper Canon news from you, from Del Rey to Marvel, and of course, the High Republic. Well, we'll also get a bit into Ahsoka and the other screen projects, and most certainly, the Acolyte. But first, some plugs. You can follow us, of course, at the Ion Canon Pod, and you can see it right there, Ion Canon Pod, on Twitter. Of course, also subscribe to the Star Wars Underworld Network for, updates and other things. Send us a super chat, and we'll read your comment. But if you don't, we'll try to read your comment anyway, because we're nice like that. Mm-hmm. And of course, join us on the Star Wars Underworld Discord for fun and Star Wars chatter and game and movie nights. We are currently voting for what we want to play next week. It is between Fall Guys, Fortnite, and Apex. So join us.
Nice. Sounds good. I don't know. I may not be able. I might pop into that. I've played Fall Guys. I haven't played Fortnite. Haven't played Apex. Sounds like fun. I want to say the tractor beam. Still not sure what I'm going to do with that. I might give it a rest for a bit. See if I can transform it into something new, something else. We'll see what happens. But you can check out all my previous things. I'm still definitely catching up on the comics for sure. But you see what. If you're curious about comics that came out last few weeks, last few months, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, their Ion Canon Pod, Ion Canon, and check that out. If it makes its grand return, trying to figure solo podcasting, non-appointment, solo audio only podcasting is going the way of the dinosaur for obvious reasons. So let's let's find out what happens with that. But enjoyed reviewing comics, enjoyed still talking about them. Obviously, going to still care about them. So we'll see what happens there.
Indeed. And yes, aren't we all waiting for RJ's Star Wars trilogy in our hearts, in our minds? But with that said, let's get to it. With a week of Star Wars, and this week I found something a little fun on the Twitters. Let's see, who is? I'm going to make sure I got the right Twitter people so I can credit them properly. Okay, so Tooney on Twitter a couple of weeks ago did a fun Paper Canon poll, kind of like one of them, like big
the March Madness basketball
March Madness event where it's like you got this book versus this book, and then you proceed to the next round. Mm-hmm. So in the second to last round, but what's interesting, and again, I want to clarify and say I don't necessarily consider Twitter polls the end all be all of anything. No. Like, if social media really determines success or failure, then both of James Cameron's Avatar movie should have bombed just to make the bajillions.
Social media doesn't determine success or failure?
I know.
In 2023? Who knew?
Who knew? But I do think there is a little bit of something, a kernel of interest in that. In the final second to last round, it was 2 versus 2, and it was between Heir of the Empire, Revenge of the Sith, novelization on Team 1, which is a bit of an odd one on the Legend side. And on the canon side, we got Light of the Jedi and Rising Storm. And the canon side won. So the final round was between Light of the Jedi and Rising Storm. And Light of the Jedi did win by 50.4%, with Rising Storm coming in second with 49.6%. Very close, I must say. Mm-hmm. But the takeaway is less, on that final round. And my takeaway is more on the second to final round of like, here you have these two bulwarks of classic Legends EU, Heir of the Empire, the one that really kickstarted it, and the Revenge of the Sith novelization, which is another famous one. I'm surprised not Plagueis. I would have thought that one would have.
You'd think, but
whatever. But they lost. They lost to High Republic. And I just think it's interesting, just the cultural shift of like where High Republic books can beat these two stalwarts. Again, Twitter polls aren't these aren't scientific, but I do think it's interesting just kind of looking at that in terms of the cultural swaths of Star Wars fandom discourse over the years, and we're at a place where it's like two High Republic books that came out like when?
Like 2021, 2022.
So 2 years ago, a year to 2 years ago, beat out two classic, most the mainstream of the Legends era of Star Wars books. So that just was my week. That was just something I took away from it. So I just thought I'd share because it sounds like something we talk about.
I'll tell you the thing that's more surprising about this. It's not so much that High Republic beat out Legends classics, because High Republic Twitter is fantastic. It's probably the best part of Twitter, period. Most enthusiastic. The way the Luminous authors interact with people on Twitter, just the fan accounts that have popped up. Instagram's done that too. I'm sure TikTok has as well. But it is really, I mean, it's where you go to Celebration, you see the High Republic meetup, you see the High Republic panel, which we will get into in a bit. You see that it also exists on Twitter in a way. There's just all these accounts tweeting about their fandom for High Republic. So that part I understand, I can see, especially because of all the mass exodus from Twitter that has happened. Whereas, I mean, I wonder if all the classic Legends fans, they're still maybe on Facebook, or if they're on social media, or who knows what. But High Republic Twitter is great, is big, is huge. The thing that surprised me most about this, to bury the lead here, the thing that surprised me most is Light of the Jedi beating out Rising Storm, because I mean, this is, again, it's a Twitter poll, so who knows, and only by what, less than one. I can't do math.
I wish I voted, because I would have voted for Rising Storm. I mean, maybe I could have get the edge.
I mean, it was by 8%. So by, I don't know how many votes, because out of 952 votes, so probably around 75 votes or something. Is that right? Did I do the math right? I don't know if I did the math right. I think I did. Yeah. But again, because Rising Storm, generally speaking, is not far more acclaimed. Yeah, I'd say it's in phase one. It's the one that's definitely the most popular. I happen to like Fallen Star the best, but more than Light of the Jedi. Light of the Jedi is this historical account of all these different characters trying to, I mean, Rising Storm is too, but of all these different characters trying to grapple with the Hetzel disaster, and then everything going on, not Elrond, whatever the planet's name is. Arano, not even Arano. The one that has the thing with Porter Engle and Bell Zettifar and all that. Anyway, just different things, lots of things happening in Light of the Jedi that made it slightly less of a coherent book, I think, but I loved it still. Rising Storm is one mad rush of a battle of Valo. And so, but I mean, again, Twitter poll, about 1,000 votes. Yeah, interesting. There you go.
Star Wars? I was gonna say, do you have anything?
I actually do, and I figure we're gonna bring back this week in Star Wars, because just in case people know, we're waiting on our guest. Guest is coming. It's happening. We're just gonna keep going here. So I'll say I'm almost done Jedi Battle Scars. I haven't quite started Quest for Planet X or Cataclysm, but I do want to soon. Because Battle Scars, Jedi Battle Scars, I'll have it done by this weekend when Jedi Survivor comes out and it hits YouTube. Hopefully, hits YouTube soon, or Twitch soon. I've done almost done Jedi Battle Scars. It's okay. It's a good story. This is just my characterization of it, or my sense of it. It's a good story. Marin in this novel is pretty rich. Her journey through this a very romantic journey, but also a very heartbreaking journey. I won't say too much more. The internal monologues are too long and kind of stop the action a bit. I don't know if we'll be able to get to a full review video. I don't know, Joel, are you listening to it? Are you reading it? Or
no, I've gone over to Catalyst.
Okay, you're on Catalyst now. Okay, that's good.
Cataclysm.
Cataclysm. Catalyst. Great film. Great novel by James Luceno. Came out in 2016. Cataclysm.
It really is.
By Lydia Kang. Anyway, Jedi Battle Scars. Yeah, the internal monologues really kind of confusing. It stops the action, which is kind of strange. My take on this novel is that it's just poorly edited more than it's poorly written. They could have cut down, even because those internal monologues get repetitive and you don't need that. I think it could have been, I wonder if this is one of those things where they wanted to sell an adult novel, an adult length novel, and you hear this a bit. I know the guys at Clashing Sabers talking about some of the High Republic novels. Actually, I think talking about Fallen Star specifically. I think that's what they were talking about, saying they add in more things just to extend the length, so you can categorize it as an adult novel and sell it as an adult novel and sell it at that price point as an adult novel. But yeah, it could have been a short story. It could have been, and by short story I mean 80-90 pages, and you could have actually, because that's the definition of a short story. I think is less than 100 pages. So just because, yeah, where it ends up getting to, it's a little repetitive, but I don't mind it. I'm able to finish it. I'm able to get there, and I'm especially looking forward to seeing if it does set up characters at all for Jedi Survivor, which again comes out this weekend. So maybe, I mean, that's the thing. It has a chance because it was written as a tie-in, just to show where these characters are at the beginning of that game. I know the game is set a few years later, but hopefully it makes it more of an enriching thing. I don't know, Joel, how far did you get in Battle Scars?
And what do you think of it when you chapters in? Like I got like chapter 10. I thought it was fine, but I kept finding myself struggling to just listen to it. And maybe because, again, I'm not the best listener. I'm a bit of a, with everything, even with catalysm, like, getting distracted. But I've kept at it, and I've gotten back. Catalysm might be drawing my attention a little more in general. But I already got like 3 other High Republic books that I could have kept to. So I kind of I gotta know what happens in phase 2. I've kept to phase 2 pretty good. So
yeah, it's true. You have. You really have.
I gotta finish it now. I'm determined to at least get this done.
Yeah, there we go. You're being hook, line, and sinker. You pulled in. We got ya. There you go.
I'm in the minority. If I like phase 2 more than phase 1, then I just think the mother is.
That's not a minority. I
feel like that's how I feel like it's on Twitter, but that's
okay. Yeah, it's Twitter. Who knows? I already like phase 2 more than phase 1. So
yeah, I gotta know what the mother's up to. I think she's a fascinating villain.
Oh yeah, she's fantastic. We'll get into some more of that, including more Cataclysm, of course, more about phase 3 and the bridge to phase 3. That is, what's this called? Tales of Light and Life. I'm calling it the bridge to phase 3. Yeah, that's my week in Star Wars.
All right, let me see. All right. Okay, so now to Eye on Screen. With The Mandalorian, the return of The Mandalorian. Return and leading very quickly. I did for you. Yeah, the season finale. Yeah. Oh boy, let's get to it. Yeah. So I think for myself overall, I quite enjoyed the episode. It was fun. It was nice to see the Mandos do their thing. Gideon, one last battle against Gideon, kind of seeing the dark saber just getting crushed. I like that part. I actually do like the whole getting crushed so unceremoniously. That was cool. Mm-hmm. I kind of actually like the idea of where season 4 is going, where Din is a independent contractor of the New Republic. Am I right, people? But yeah, it's one of those things. It's like I enjoy the episode, but I feel like my issues with the season kind of made some things just ring a little more hollow than others. So just like, oh well, that happened. Like I would have liked to see a little bit more struggle to get the Mando clans together before the big huzzah moment. I didn't need Din to necessarily be the Mando king or anything like that. And I was happy that like, oh, now he and Grogu are just kind of chilling on Navarro. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought the episode was a lot of fun and cool. Very finite for a season finale in more ways than one. I found that very, very interesting. Very interesting. Like this felt like a series finale almost. So yeah, that's kind of my overall take. And on to the next thing, as they say.
Well, I gotta say, first of all, the destruction of the Darksaber. I mean, that's an epoch making moment. That's an epoch making event. First, the retaking of Mandalore is in a way an epoch making event. It was well, here's the question. We're talking about finality. Do you think what's his name? Do you think Gideon's dead? Do you think he's actually gone? Is he actually
I do. I think the only reason they would use the whole he's with a clone thing is because, well, if they want him back, they want him back. But I do think the intent at the moment is he's dead.
Yeah. So I'll say, I mean, I love the episode. We'll get into our thoughts of the whole season in a minute, but really, I mean, really excited. I do get the finality of it, right? It did feel like everything that the series has been building to culminated in this episode. Everything to push, especially everything Bo-Katan and the armor talking about how Mandalore is cursed or not, it's destroyed or not, or well, it is destroyed, but able to be rebuilt, retaken, and rebuilt. The refiring of the forge, the Great Forge. But yeah, it does open up this new path, this new trajectory forward. I do feel like, and here's the Katie Sackhoff reference coming to you. It is a question of now what? It is a question of, okay, they're on Mandalore. The reason I bring up Katie Sackhoff is, they in Battlestar Galactica they find Earth, but it's a wasteland. And now what? How many people actually want to stay? There's clearly a stronger sense, of course, with Mandalore than with the Capricorns, but in Earth. But yeah, it's this question of now they got to rebuild. I mean, there's the biblical parallel of Ezra and Nehemiah, rebuilding the ruins of the wall, and with enemies coming at them and trying to stop them, and that could actually build up something very interesting in terms of character and community cohesion. But again, the Darksaber's done, and that's the thing, is the power of that symbol to unify the people is now destroyed. Of course, no lightsaber necessarily has to be completely destroyed, but I think that's the intent, is to say it no longer has the symbol that it once did. I'm just thinking about, of course, how in a way that is the Satine Kryze cameo, in a way, because Pre Vizsla has it on Concord Dawn, but he isn't using it as well. He probably wants to use that as the symbol, and he ultimately does, and Maul ultimately does. But Satine's in charge, and it doesn't have the weight. The Darksaber clearly doesn't have the weight that it historically does, or historically has. She's made a point of putting that away and putting that aside. Maybe there's now that opportunity for a more peaceable return. This more peaceable mythosaur that's just looking at Bo-Katan, just doing doing its thing, being genteel under the water there. There's an opportunity for Satine's legacy now to really be brought back to the forefront, as opposed to being this kind of embarrassing, dirty family secret. Ew, she was a pacifist. She led Mandalore into pacifism. That I'm looking forward to. So yeah, and then,
or who knows, maybe season 4 is all about Din just hunting Imperials, which I'm all for, because
sure, I mean, that's the thing, is the other side to it, of course, is you're saying the New Republic, and Din and Grogu warding off not just pirates and bounty hunters, but also the emerging First Order threat that and that's another thing this season did, and we'll get to that in a second. But that really connected the dots a lot better. Not so much explicitly, but with what's his name?
Brendel Hux.
Yeah, Brendel. There's the explicit link with cloning experiments. There's an implicit link. Then you have Pelion and Thrawn there. So, it's connecting the dots in a way that, frankly, I didn't expect they would connect it so clearly and explicitly, but they did. So,
no, I think that was honestly my favorite cameo. It's like, oh wow, Brendel Hux from Aftermath. Like, dang,
played by the brother of Domhnall Gleeson.
I know, it was like that moment was just so cool. It's like seeing a Paper Canon original character in Brendel and Legend Canon Pelion in the same room together. It's like that's like my mind just gets blown right there.
True. Brendel is another one that in the ranks of those who have leapt from page to screen. There we go.
I know some people are like, did they forget Ray Sloan? And like, well, if you freaking use Brendel Hux, I feel like internally you probably don't forget Ray Sloan. Yeah. I get why you use Brendel Hux because you got Hux, and that's sort of like, well, the audience, you've probably seen the sequel, they know what Hux is, so I think that's kind of more your connection there.
That makes sense.
I don't think like, oh, they forgot about Sloan. Like, well, they use Brendel Hux. I don't think you do that without just. I don't think internally you don't forget.
I think Sloan. That's another one of those. It's a matter of time.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's possible.
So it just makes so much She's such a strong link between the Empire and the First Order, and the Empire being this more, I don't want to say honorable institution, but she had the higher hopes for it, bringing peace through order, for better and for worse. So, and just to see what ends up happening. Yeah, I can give it, like I said, given Brendel making the leap, given, of course, Cobb Vanth making the leap. Yeah, I can see.
Vern making the leap soon.
Yeah, so,
yeah. Yeah, but the Mandalorian Season 3... We will probably do a full-on review soon.
I do want to say for now, though, I don't know if we want to give your thoughts on Season 3 overall, but I will say, I mean, I loved it. It's actually my favorite season of the 6 seasons of live-action Star Wars we've gotten on Disney Plus since 2019. This is definitely my favorite. Yeah, the Starfighter battles, just now the Starfighter battles, the hand-to-hand combat, the action, but even the moving story and the characters. I mean, Bo-Katan becoming the title character was really compelling, and Katie Sackhoff's performance was brilliant. I mean, another thing we haven't talked about, I'm glad. I think I was right about the armor. Right, she turns out. I mean, we'll see. I mean, maybe season 4.
Pope of the Mandos. That's what I'm going to call her. She's very much the Pope of the Mandos.
Mando Pope. Yeah, maybe a little bit. And then Mando Pope, Mando Empress. There we go.
Armor.
There we go. There it is. Not quite Lee Char's papal tiara, but and to say okay, she's the armor's kind of doing right by her people. Yeah, and then Grogu. Grogu didn't have as much to do in the season, but I think that's going to change, especially now that he's fully inducted into the crew. And clearly his force sensitivity, force capacity is, he's doing the cartwheels, he's doing the Yoda cartwheels. He's capable. He has a part to play in that final battle as well. So,
yeah, I like that. That was a good moment. I like just kind of at that final moment, like Din and Grogu again, just taking on stormtroopers and Gideon clones and whatnot. Yeah, I think I'm a bit the opposite. This might be my second favorite season. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of highs for me. I really liked the Coruscant episode. Mm-hmm. That first 10 minutes of the second to last episode are probably some of my favorite things in Star Wars. The pirate episode was fun. Yeah. Got to see Zeb. That was really good.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like just for me, I just feel like it didn't come together as much as I would have hoped. Like the second and first seasons did overall. But I think this is probably my second favorite because I do like season 1, but I feel like I like just the things in season 2 and 3 a bit more. So that's kind of my overall.
Like your second favorite season of The Mandalorian, you mean?
Yeah.
Because your favorite thing in it is Andor. Your favorite live action, is it?
I don't know. I might go. It's always the tie between that and Kenobi for me. Because because I really love just all the Vader and Kenobi stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
That's sort of my core thing. I also really do love Andor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like it's one of those. It's either Kenobi or Andor. And sort of like, well, sort of like I love Revenge of the Sith, and like Kenobi's such a continuation of that. Yes. But also love Rogue One, and Andor is such a continuation of that. So it's sort of like I don't know. So yeah, it's one of those two. But yeah, in terms of like just the Mandalorian, probably rank it 2, 3, and then 1 for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our overall feelings about.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna say. I mean, it is interesting. I want to keep going on this for a little bit more. It is interesting. Yeah, this feels final in terms of them finally retaking Mandalore and firing up the Forge, and that this group of Mandalorians, plural, are now together. Of course, Din and Din Grogu, Din Djarin and Din Grogu have gone off. That was another funny little thing of you gotta know Favreau was like, you think that's his first name, eh? Interesting. There we go. Yeah, it really does. I mean, there's a lot of loose ends in the season. There's a lot of things. I mean, just thinking about Pershing and even Carson Tave a little, but I mean, yeah, the Gideon's clones are all destroyed. Gideon's destroyed, but is Pershing completely destroyed? Maybe. Is somebody's got to have a hold on him or have his research around. So it's there are things that it definitely leaves unanswered, and again, that's good because the series isn't actually over. It's
I mean, like if Pershing comes back, like, and he'll come back, people are like, hey, they didn't resolve it in season 3. It's like, well, man, maybe they don't have to. I don't think one of those things you necessarily have to resolve if you're still getting another season. I think the things you resolve are, Mandalorian getting reunited. That's your arc. But that's certainly a good point about season 3.
And then again, also to say again, just because they've retaken Mandalore, just because of the Forge, there's opportunities to explore the now what. There's opportunities to say, what are they going to do with this? What is their role in the galaxy going forward? Especially in this time period where they haven't written any story, right? It's all open. Just like in between episodes 2 and 3, they had room to tell the Mandalorian story, tell about Satine, tell about Bo-Katan and Pre Vizsla and Maul and everything that happened there. They have room to tell what their role is, and it might be even, I mean, it's a different situation. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. A different situation than it was during the Clone Wars, where during the Clone Wars it was, hey, there's the separatist threat. Why aren't you helping us? What's going on? We're gonna go and keep you, or try and secure your allegiance, and we're gonna send Obi-Wan and Padme and pull the strings and all that. Now it's the New Republic is this somewhat weakened. It's not it's not fully capable of taking charge of the galaxy the way the Empire was intentionally, the way the old Republic was, the late Republic was. It could actually be a partnership role now. They're set up to partner with. And this is what Din and Carson Teva may, the opportunity that might provide is to this partnership role in doing their best to at least prevent the First Order, doing their best to keep some sort of peace and justice in the Outer Rim as best they can.
I mean, would you be surprised if the Filoni movie happens and then during the epic battles, like the heroes of the New Republic are having trouble, but then all of a sudden you just see little Din and Grogu come up, but then boom, a whole bunch of Mandos, and they just start kicking Thrawn Force's butt. Armor just comes into Thrawn's chapel ship, start whacking, and then Pelion just runs for his life. Oh my. Also, I've been thinking about this. This is a little tangent, but it's something I've been thinking about. I wonder if the Filoni film's going to be called Rangers of the New Republic. Like, you kind of look at it like what Din's doing. It sounds like that's kind of what his thing is going to be doing. Which, I mean, growth on Din for that. Like, I wanted to mention this earlier. He's gone from New Republic stupid to, well, got some good eggs with like Carson Teva, and better than working for the Imperial Remnant. So I'll help out Carson Teva. So that's probably a good way to go. So that's just that's another thought there. You're still on mute, by the way. Okay. But that's something I definitely think about a lot in terms of the finale. Although it's kind of funny that now all the people ruling Mandalore are all former Death Watch. It's kind of funny. It's like, I guess Death Watch won in the end. Armored probably did F Death Watch, X Woves. The other one, Bo-Katan, obviously. I don't think Din was part of the Children of the Watch, but I don't think he was around when Death Watch was a thing. But
they're Death Watch adjacent. They're called the Watch. There's a reason they're called Children of the Watch, just because they're Death Watch adjacent. Yeah, that's true. It's interesting, and yet again, I do think there's an opportunity for them to reform, them to change. I mean, the Night Owls clearly in this state of schism with Children of the Watch, and clearly not seeing eye to eye. I mean, there might be even an interesting cameo for Boba Fett somehow, because he was not the Children of the Watch. Like, well, in Legends, Jango was part of this other group that was opposed to Night Watch, right? Death Watch. Yeah, and I forget who, but yeah. So I mean, that's kind of I guess the kind of the canon version of that of the Night Owls a little bit. Boba Fett's in and around there. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. That again, they're all former Death Watch adjacent folks. Again, I do think there is room for something new to respect what Satine did. We know Hannah. We know a bunch of people are pining for Corky. Corky Kryze. Corky Kenobi Kryze. Maybe not. Yeah, so good.
But yeah, that was season 3. Quite a ride. It felt like it's strange. It's the show came and then it's gone now. Kind of weird. We're in this weird spot right now. It's like the in between for the next thing. Always so odd when you're in this little area.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to having my Wednesdays back. Yeah, because Picard's done too now. What am I gonna do with myself? And Ted Lasso's still going back.
Yeah. I didn't stay up for watching most of them. I went to bed.
No, I never stay up till 3 a.m. I did not do that. So
did I do that for the finale? No, I did not. I went to bed. I would almost thought about doing it for the finale. There. I get tired.
That's fair.
These days.
That's
quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, should we continue with celebration? We apologize. Our guest is running it a tad late, but I'm sure they'll be here and then we'll have even more fun.
Yeah. So we'll dive in, and then if when the guest comes, we'll catch them up. But yeah. So first of all, to say, Star Wars Celebration. I should actually do a better banner there. Anyway, Star Wars Celebration Europe. It happened. There was lots of some things were more meaty than others. Some things were juicy burger on the barbecue than others. But we're sorry, sorting things out. But yeah, the biggest thing and so the one panel I ended up watching because I've only gotten to it was the High Republic panel, and it was on it's on YouTube. Was able to find it. We know the panel that Dom, Chris, and them with Adam Christopher and Ethan Sachs. That is up on Star Raptors YouTube channel. Definitely go check that out. But yeah, we're gonna dive into High Republic first, the High Republic panel, and then we'll get into everything else. I will say, I'll start with this. I'll do that, but say it was really all about Phase 3 and the bridge to Phase 3, and that was exciting. There was some Phase 2 news. There was some more tease about the Night of Sorrow. Definitely this gruesome image with the low leveler and that. But we'll focus on phase 3. It's the most substantive reveals in the whole set of Paper Canon panels by far. So we'll spend more time there. We've already mentioned the Vernestra and Kiev news. So look back the last 2 weeks. You want our thoughts on live action Vernestra Row, Master Kiev Trennis. I'm definitely excited for that. We are going to get into the Vern news a little bit more when we talk about the Acolyte still. But the first thing you see on the panel, on the High Republic panel here, Alyssa Wong is joining Team Luminous. Of course, Alyssa Wong, who's the quintessential Dr. Aphra writer. And they're writing Rogue Element in the Barnes and Noble. So this is the Barnes and Noble edition of Tales of Light and Life, the anthology. I'm gonna have to figure out how to get my hands on this somehow, because there is no Barnes and Noble in Canada. There's no Barnes and Noble outside the United States, and yet they have this exclusive deal with Barnes and Noble. I think it's Disney Publishing is doing this one because it's the young adult. So I gather it's the bridge to phase 3 in some ways. We'll get into a little bit more about that. Some things in all different phases of High Republic. Anyway, Alyssa Wong, they're writing Rogue Element in the anthology, and we'll meet a new Jedi. This is what was revealed, as well as Crash Anwa. And Crash Anwa, Daniel Jose Older in Midnight Horizon, named Crash after Alyssa Wong because on social media, Alyssa's handle is always Crash Wong, and I think that's probably the nickname. And that's set right after Midnight Horizon, so kind of in Midnight Horizon, like the end of phase 1, but just afterwards, dealing with that. Crash was a fantastic character. I really enjoyed everything she, I can't quite remember, got up to. Alyssa's they them, so I'll presume Crash is also they them. Definitely excited for that, and excited because again, Alyssa Wong, she's done a fantastic job with Dr. Aphra. She's really taken that character and made it what Aphra could become. I think they've written something in one of the From a Certain Point of View stories, and some different stories as well, but primarily, of course, the Aphra. So I'm really looking forward to that, and looking forward to just Alyssa joining Team Luminous because they're also co-writing the middle grade Escape from Valo in phase 3, and so this is also the reveals for phase 3 with Daniel Jose Older, and that comes out in January 2024. And that'll be that's going to be the first of the middle grade novels. Other middle grade novels in phase 3: Beware the Nameless by Zoraida Cordova, that's coming out in summer 2024, and A Valiant Vow by Justina Ireland in spring of 2025. Put a pin in that with Justina Ireland, 2025 middle grade. Joel, I don't know how much you've been able to follow Alyssa Wong and Dr. Aphra, but New Blood. What do you think of this news?
Oh, always exciting. Yeah, it's like good to always see a cycle of different writers. I really like. Is her name Lydia Kang? Cataclysm?
Lydia Kang, yeah.
She's really good with that book. I've really been enjoying that so far. She's a newie to the High Republic. Again. So that's what's good. It's not always just the original 3 of Charles Soule, Kevin Scott, and Gotti Gray. So that's nice. So that's nice. Let's see. But I think that's always a good thing. I like seeing these different authors come in, kind of cycling through, and even bringing in new authors again. So that's fun. I'm very excited.
Yeah, and it's interesting with phase 2. George Mann has been the Charles Soule, if you will, of phase 2 of the cabinet. I don't know. When he's written, he did Battle of Jeddah, written all the insider short stories. He's been the lead, if you will, on phase 2. And he's done a fantastic job, and even Zoraida Cordova, and blanking on the other actor. I guess Lydia Kang has done a great job as well, from what I've heard. And so, George Mann also wrote Quest for the Hidden City, and that was fantastic as well. So, all the new blood, the new turnover. It seems like with phase 3, they're bringing the whole cast together. They have the phase 1 authors and the phase 2 authors coming together to do that. So that's again, it's worked out well. It's worked out great. I did remember. I'll get to this in a bit. Kevin Scott, he was actually going to write the first novel in Phase 3. He actually turned it down because he just had too much on his plate, and he seemed fine with that choice. So as we'll say, well, I'll get to that in a bit. But George Mann, he's writing it. The next bit of news, and then again, we'll cycle back when the guest comes. But the next bit of news is talking all about those Tales of Light and Life reveals. And it comes out September 5th. And the meatiest panel. This was the meatiest bit of news. This was a good prime rib steak of just who's writing what, and when is it set, and what characters, and what kind of teasing a lot of the stories. I will say Michael Siglain, he tried to do his best Dave Filoni impression in this panel, being all, oh, should we spoil this? Should we mention that? I don't know. He didn't quite pull it off. I think he should do his own thing, not worry about that too much. I don't know, Joel, were you able to actually see this panel, or?
No, I kind of missed out on a lot. I pretty much didn't. I don't think I watched really any of the panels. I just kind of caught up on Twitter news because it was in London, so it's like I get to sleep, and then when I wake up, all the news will have happened. So I'm just gonna just summarize it for me. I did it the lazy way. No, I was unfortunately wasn't able to really catch the panel. I just wanted to kind of see like, oh, what's anything announced, anything what are the highlights? So. Plus, I probably knew you would watch it, so I get my sources from you.
There we go. There we go. So and they went through all this. So I'll go through. So Tales of Light and Life comes out September 5th. Again, it's the young adult anthology that is set, and I'll go through. So we got Zoraida Cordova, and she's writing The Queen's Bloom, and that's a pre-phase 1, really post-phase 2. And here's Joel. Here's the thing we're looking for. It's Axel Greylark and the mother, and what they're up to after phase 2. So, I mean, from what I hear with Cataclysm, there's a lot that goes on with that as well. I don't know any story details of that. I haven't read it yet, but Axel Greylark and the mother, and I think going what the mother's all about, what her deal is, really. Tessa Gratton writing A Closed Fist Has No Claws, and that's about Marta Rowe. And Siglain was very tight-lipped about when. So Zoraida Cordova, Tessa Gratton, they weren't actually at the panel. They couldn't make it. So Siglain went into what those details were. But A Closed Fist Has No Claws. I'm talking about Marta, clearly a transformed villainous character. I do wonder if that's actually set further on, a bit later on, when she's a lot older, when she maybe is the mother herself. Great grandma to Markian, and so that quickly George Mann reading Shield of the Jedi, and Shield of the Jedi, of course, Solandra show, and also Rupert going. So this is set a few years after phase 2. So Solandra and Rupert, of course, from George Mann's Quest for the Hidden City, going through Jedi trials several years after phase 2. Daniel Jose Older is writing Ram and his friendship with Zine. This is during phase 1. And that's one that hasn't gotten explored as much. Claudia Gray fighting off laryngitis to tell us one day after the fall of Starlight, Effie, Xeox, Geode, 1 week, 1 month, and 1 day, 1 week, 1 month after the fall of Starlight Beacon. So that's exciting. That's definitely very much a bridge into phase 3. Justina Ireland writing The Force Provides. Vern dealing with the fall of Starlight. Lightsaber Whip teased. Charles Soule, he's writing, I think he says he's writing 2 stories. I think it's part 1 and part 2 set in different times. So first Bell and Loden before phase 1, when with Bell being Loden's Padawan, and then Bell between phase 1 and 2. This is the really interesting thing. Between phases 1 and 3, distraught about a fallen comrade, Buryaga, and he needs to find him. I think this is where we're gonna. Then they were do we tell what happens to Burry? What do we tell what happens to Burry? They didn't. Thankfully, again, Siglain is attempted at a Dave Filoni impression. But we all need to know what happens to Burry, of course. But we need to know in a story. I wonder if this is the story that we'll find out. Kevin Scott, Master Key. We went into that already. I'm super excited for that. And I gather that's between phases 1 and 3 as well. Lydia Kang, the Call of Coruscant, 2 new characters recalled Coruscant. Yeah, 2 new characters recalled to Coruscant. And yeah, probably again talking about the just the general retreat of the Jedi because of Mark Unro. So that's Tales of Light and Life. We will get into thoughts on that, but first, our guest is here. He is the Star Wars Underworld Time Materials correspondent. He was in the room when it happens. Chris, friend of the pod, Chris.
Here I am. Here we
How's
go.
it going? How's it going?
Hey. Finally made it. Thanks for your patience, guys.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. So I see you're talking about the short stories there in the High Republic panel. Yeah. It was a great time. It was a great time to be had by all.
So might as well go into it. So well, yeah. First of all, we'll talk about the thing at hand. Of those short stories, because Chris, I'm assuming you're caught up on all these details. Which one stands out to you the most?
Yeah, I would have to say the one. It's a good question because they have a lot of stories that are kind of all around the timeline there from phase 1, phase 2, going into phase 3. Oh man. How am I forgetting the character's name that has a Charhound?
Oh, Bell.
Bell Zettifar. He's probably one of my favorite characters. Yeah. And the one with him and Loden Greatstorm. Is there one with like him and Loden Greatstorm?
So yeah, there's the Charles Soule diptych of Bell and Loden before phase 1, and then Bell and maybe Burry. So
I don't think they'll reveal Burry lives or dies in that. I don't think those stories are going to be. I think they'll be impactful, but I think they're waiting to reveal that in like a full-fledged phase 3 novel or something.
Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. Yeah. So you're looking forward to that one, Joel? Any of the ones I read, any of those stand out to you the most? What you're most interested in?
I guess the Axel Greylark and the Mother one, because I really do like those characters.
Really?
I haven't finished Catalysm yet. I'm still going. I'm still at the early part of that book. And I guess the Call of Coruscant. I'm so used to being called. I'm so used to those types of titles having the Fall of Coruscant. Coruscant falls a lot. It's all down. It's got to learn to balance itself. That one actually sounds interesting. So yeah, probably those two. But I like short stories in general. So I think the High Republic is a great place for these sorts of anthology short stories overall.
Yeah. Because lately, you can
go ahead. No, you go.
I was gonna say lately we've been getting a lot of like I feel like the Disney Lucasfilm Press puts out like anthology stories once a year. Like we got the Clone Wars one. There was another one, Tales of
Jedi
Light and Dark. Yeah, they've been kind of doing an annual release of those sorts of things. And I did really enjoy the most recent one from last year, which was about the Jedi and the Sith. Didn't care so much about the adaptation of the Clone Wars episodes because I was like, I've watched those episodes multiple times, so I'm reading about them. But with the High Republic, there's so much fertile ground to tell these stories about these different characters at different points in their lives. And even though, the story will have its closure with the Trials of the Jedi novel by Charles Soule, I hope, like going forward, there's still so much time in between, especially phase 2 and phase 1. I hope that like we'll still be getting, High Republic stories well after the phase is kind of done,
Yeah, I mean that's something, Joel, you mentioned a few times, just that yes, it's an initiative, but it's also an era. And these characters right for storytelling, and they can. I think that this is a great idea to do this anthology for High Republic because it's already picking up all these characters we know and love, new stories. I've already talked about Master Keeve. She's it. She's going to be the most important character in the High Republic. I'm still convinced of that. But yeah, I think that's my vote for most interesting story, just because it's Master Keeve. But I mean, A Closed Fist Has No Claws, Marta, whenever that's set by Tessa Gratton, whenever that one's set, because Marta is definitely my favorite character phase 2.
Oh, that's a very interesting title. Reading into Cataclysm, that's a very interesting title.
All right, good to know. Good to know. Good to know. We'll get to that a bit. Let's back up a little bit, Chris, because I do want to get your thoughts here. One of the things we highlighted that Alyssa Wong is joining Team Luminous. You're caught up on Aphra, I'm assuming. Yeah, I mean, I don't fully know what your opinion on Aphra is, but I loved it. I loved it. What do you think of Alyssa Wong? First of all, just doing the Rogue Element story, also with the New Jedi and with Crash Anwa, and then the middle grade Escape from Valo for Phase 3. What do you think of Alyssa Wong joining Team Luminous?
Yeah, the Crash Anwa story. That's pretty spot on because like she's basically in the High Republic already. So it's like, why not let her write about a character that's based off of her? I guess
Daniel Jose Older named Crash after Alyssa. So
now I'm not a fan of the fact that they paywalled it behind a Barnes and Noble exclusive edition. And I'm saying this as a person that can actually access that, but somebody here can't apparently. So it's like, what the heck are they doing this for? It's one thing to have like exclusive art prints, but to have a whole story region locked essentially, it's like, what the heck?
Analog region lock. There we go. An analog region. Yeah.
But I mean, otherwise, as far as your what did I think of Aphra? Yeah, Aphra is every bit of weird as you can imagine, but it's got a lot of heart to it. And it has a lot of emotion to it. So I'm very curious to see what her writing style in a prose format for a, something that isn't a comic, because I haven't read anything written by her that's not in a comic.
Yeah, I wonder if they've written prose. Probably they have to. If it isn't, if your first Star Wars thing, your first your first prose published thing. What's the line? What's the line? Is Star Wars is never your first novel.
Oh
is what it is. So that's fair.
But it's cool to see them increasing the fold as far as the Lumineers, and we've seen that Phase 2, Phase 3. We have an additional writer. She's also writing, like you said. You said she's sharing a book with Daniel.
Yeah, the writing them Escape from Valo with Daniel Jose.
Oh yeah. So
the middle grade.
Okay, so they are writing
the
middle grade novel. Cool.
Yeah. So we can move on then to the other reveals. The Phase 3 books and comics. Actually, before we do that, I'm gonna pause there, Chris. You're actually in the room, and we'll get to the big thing at the end that we've already talked about before, live action for Nestor. But what was it like just being in the room with?
It was absolutely fantastic. Like that room, I don't know if they like showed the crowd angle or anything, but that room was absolutely massive. And Matthew, last year we had discussions of like, oh my gosh, they're filling this room. It's so large. I'll be honest, this room was almost double the size of that room from last year.
That's so amazing.
The fact that the High Republic of Publishing panel can fill that in, and the same thing with Marvel Comics. Is the Galaxy stage at Celebration XL fit like I think 2,000 people or something like that. So between Marvel and High Republic, it's like it's great to see the publishing going strong. But same with the High Republic, it was me sitting next to Dominic Jones and my girlfriend, who doesn't have much like experience the High Republic at all.
You're converting her, right? That's the plan?
well, she had the audio book of the Light of the Jedi. We were kind of listening when we first started dating like 2 years ago. It's like, you got to listen to this. You got to listen to this. So we were listening to it and everything. And I don't know if she ever finished it, but anyway, so it's like you have a complete newbie here in the room with all these hardcore fans, because literally we were like a row in front of the cosplayers. Like there are all these awesome High Republic cosplayers. You often see these people on Twitter, they're posting to them like, oh, I think I recognize that person. That person is awesome. An entire row of like Vernestra Rose and
that's great.
Marta Rose and Lorda Dees and like Emery and all these really awesome book characters. It was awesome. But anyway, they were so passionate because every time they would make an announcement, these people would scream so loud. I had to like almost put like I almost had to put like earbuds in or something. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna lose my hearing by the end of this, because they were yelling so loud. But it was kind of neat because I'm like, the books are causing people to react this way. This is freaking crazy. Like when they started announcing certain things about certain characters, like I literally like heard people sobbing behind
That's
me, like,
amazing.
oh my gosh, people are so emotionally invested in these characters, and especially when the big announcement, and we'll talk about it at the end, came. That's when it was like pandemonium in that place. But it was cool because, you know, me and Dominic we're sitting there, we're like, oh wow, you know, they're announcing a lot of stuff here. It's not just wave 1, wave 2. They're announcing everything. Like this, the flow of everything, the way it was presented, it was an awesome panel just in itself before even the real big heavy stuff towards the end. So I think as far as a structure and giving the fans what they wanted, giving us more than what we expected, it made it for a great time.
It's gotta have Disney take notice. Like, look how much money we're making from these people. We can make from these people. Let's invest in this. Let's do more of this. It definitely, the concept has been proven. Definitively been proven that this kind of interlocking space wizardy political story is the way to go, and that's what people want, and people are gonna be hungry for it, just like the leveler is hungry for the Force.
Oh no! Oh
no! I want that. Anyway, speaking of reveals, so like you said, all the Phase 3 books and comics, they didn't hide anything.
Now,
who knows? Maybe there are more. Sorry, go ahead.
Here's the thing. Okay, so I was listening to the panel on my drive home from work again, and Michael Siglain, the president and everything of all this, the publishing, he was saying like, oh, what you don't see on here are the audio, or the manga, or the nonfiction. So I'm like, I don't know if he meant by that like there's not going to be any, or like it's just not on the schedule because they don't want to show it yet. They don't want
maybe like there's no audio play that they mentioned, but
there's gotta be.
There's gotta be.
And even the first thing that's going to be released in October of 2024, right, 2023 this year. There's going to be something released that we don't know what it is yet. It literally says to be announced. There's a slide. So October, around the time of New York Comic Con, they're going to be dropping something. Maybe the title itself is a spoiler from Phase 2. I don't know what it is, but
I guess I got to go to New York Comic Con then. There we go. So Phase 3. So they didn't release everything. That's true. They didn't reveal everything, but definitely the juicy meaty burger. George Mann is going to introduce it with The Eye of Darkness in November of 2023. Tessa Gratton, Temptations of the Force. Next summer, these are the adult novels. The Temptations of the Force coming out summer 2024. And then Charles Soule ending the entire initiative like he began with the titular Trials of the Jedi all the way out to spring 2025. The young adult novels Defy the Storm, Tessa Gratton and Justina Ireland teaming up again like they did so well in Path of Deceit in March 2024. Tears of the Nameless by George Mann in fall 2024. And then another bookend, Into the Light by Claudia Gray, another title bookend, genre bookend. I'll get to that in a minute. Claudia Gray also in spring 2025. And then I mentioned before Justina Ireland with her bookend as well, A Valiant Vow in spring of 2025. So I mentioned middle grade. Kevin Scott, of course, returning to the Marvel Comics with Master Keith Trennis. Gotta keep mentioning that. Daniel Jose Older, Continue High Republic Adventures with Dark Horse, and short stories for Insider Magazine. Forget who they said was writing those.
Lydia Kang.
Lydia Kang, that's right. He's writing those for December, beginning with the December 2023 issue. So, we only got a few months to go. When you think about it. I mean, got to finish Phase 2 first. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So, first off, first thing I thought of was, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Tessa Gratton might be the only writer that literally wrote every type of like age-related book. Like she's written the middle grade Path of Deceit. She's gonna write, what is it, a young adult novel?
Yeah, well, Path of Deceit's also young adult, so I don't think she's done.
Wait, she hasn't done a middle grade.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Darn. Okay,
definitely got the range right. She's a Path of Deceit, and she's switching over to the adult Temptations of the Force.
That's right. Okay. Okay. Well, I wonder, has any writer actually jumped between middle grade, young adult, and novel?
Has George Mann done any adult yet?
Oh wait, George Mann, yeah, has he tell you at all?
He's doing. I mean, they're all doing the young adult anthology, so that kind of counts, I guess.
But what I took from this, and Michael Seglain specifically pointed it out, and I've been asking for this for a long time. Stop putting books out literally on days, multiple books on the same day. As a reviewer, I know it's a guilty thing to say. I'm like, yeah, not everybody has my problem of reviewing a book as fast as humanly possible to get it up on YouTube, but for me, I'm like breathing a breath of like relief. Like, yes, I can actually marinate in the story before, like, because right now I'm in between reading 3 High Republic books as fast as I can because I got back from a trip in Europe and I'm like, oh crap, I'm behind. I have to read all these books real quick. And as fun as that may be, because it is cool to like go from one book the next day, you go right into the other book. It can be a little exhausting, and I'm just happy that they're just giving us like at least a month or two between each book release so that we can really like dive in deep to the book and really kind of break it apart and marinate on it a little bit more. So I like that they're stretching it out, and in doing so, it looks like the whole initiative is actually going to be about almost 4 years long, which is a lot longer than I thought this would last. I thought it was going to be like 2, maybe 3 years. But going on forward to upwards of almost 5 years, it started. I looked it up right before we got on here. Light of Jedi came out in 2021,
right?
So it's a pretty significant, footprint in the Star Wars franchise to have this much content. You figure there's going to be 3 adult novels in Phase 1, 2 in Phase 2, and another 3. In Phase 3, and then you add in all the young adult, all the middle grade. I mean, this whole initiative is going to be bigger than a new Jedi Order, isn't it?
Yeah.
I actually checked because I wanted to see. The new Jedi Order series went from 1999 to 2003.
So yeah, so about the same time frame.
Wow.
And how many books was in New Jedi Order?
There were 19 books.
So yeah, kind of even, kind of about that same.
Yeah.
I feel like High Republic would have beaten it. I just feel like there's more books, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
because they also have a lot of comics, which I don't think that had any, right?
Those were just
no, I don't think. I think there were a few, maybe 1 or 2 comics, but I don't think there was anything massive. But not in the way High Republic's got. So yeah.
And my sense is New Jedi Order, I don't know, didn't necessarily have the same institutional support that High Republic does. I mean, they have all of Lucasfilm Publishing, all of everyone back in the day. They have a YouTube show with Christina Ariel.
Oh goodness, no! The closest, they got. The closest they ever got was that first intro book where they got Mark Hamill to do the voice of Luke, but not in the same way High Republic ever done something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, so definitely spacing it out and spacing Phase 3 out, like Chris, you said, all the way. It can be over a year and a half. To let people actually think about these stories more and understand them more, because it shows me they're going to give people a lot to think about. I know the strategy, Michael Seglain mentioned, the strategy was to top end it so people get people in it really fast. Now that so many people are in it, as you said with the panel, it's gonna. That we're hooked, we're in, we can wait. I also wondered, part of this, and Joel, this relates to a point you've been making, letting people get used to more time without new High Republic stories, because there we go, Path of Vengeance.
Tomorrow I'm starting this one.
You were saying, I still got to finish Battle Scars. So,
as much as I'm like, I don't like the books on top of another. I'm like, I finished the one book today. It's like, all right, I'm done. I'm done this. Yeah, I got this one sitting here for me, so I'm like, that's kind of nice.
But yeah, it also gives people time to say there's going to be no more new High Republic releases. That's it. Get used to it. Having that gap. So. But there's something to say for time, letting us actually think about these things more deeply. That's true for all the films, for example,
and TV shows.
And TV shows, like having the week by week release.
Yeah.
But also, we can think about Mandalorian season 1 differently now. We can think about Kenobi differently now. That's been distant. Some distance to it. So is that people have changed their opinion on The Last Jedi, believe it or not, because of the time passage. So there you go. Joel, what do you think of that time gap? What's your kind of big takeaway from all these book releases.
Yeah, I mean, this is your final huzzahs, at least in terms of this big initiative that started in 2021. I
mean, it was the initial kickoff was 2019, right?
Well, they announced Project Luminous, and then we didn't know what Luminous was for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did the whole High Republic thing, and now we're here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like this has been with us for so long. Like I even said that we're kind of like, if there's like this, I would almost define the Mandoverse and High Republic as like the two prongs of this generation of Star Wars films, of Star Wars eras that sort of began after the sequels ended, more or less, give or take a couple dates. But yeah, it's like you probably want to keep it going, because this is it. This is the last part of the initiative, and is this the end of the High Republic era? Question mark. Like, probably not, because we got stuff in. We got Acolyte coming, and there's gonna be the Young Jedi Adventures TV short show. So I don't think they're gonna just completely abandon this era. It's like, well, nope, we did it. We're done with this era. Never be touched again.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
It's also just so compelling stories. So why not?
Yeah. So it's like, I think but it definitely in terms of like all the stuff that's been building this era. Well, this is it. This is the final phase. So
a part of me was thinking that there might have been an announcement like, there's gonna be phase 4. We just tricked y'all. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess
we did get episode 10. So
like freaking Celebration Japan, right? Like, that's gonna be coming out. We're gonna be at Celebration. There's gonna be a High Republic panel there for sure, because the books are still probably not gonna be all out by then. What's to say they're like, hey, let's do one more phase, because we're like right at the end of phase 3 at that point. So it's like, I'm still gonna hold out hope. Or they'll have like I said before, we're gonna have a phase in between 1 and 2. I don't know,
like an interlude kind of thing,
or closer to Acolyte. Have something that bridges, because by that point Acolyte season 1 will be done with. So then they could be like, okay, there's gonna be something closer to tie it in. I don't know.
That's a good point. I mean, they could, because they wouldn't necessarily have to worry about spoilers. They can actually do story content that is sort of revealed in the Acolyte, and they can go back. I think if anything, there'll be an epilogue novel, saying kind of some key moment. I mean, here's the big question, right? When does Kyiv leave? Does she leave in phase 3? Does she leave after phase 3? Is this the epilogue novel by Kevin Scott? I don't know. Because I mean, I keep mentioning this. That's why I'm so excited about Master Kyiv. Because you have to be a master in order to be a fallen master. So, by definition, you gotta be a master in order to get a bust in this hallway here. One thing I will say, I've mentioned this multiple times already. Charles Soule, Claudia Gray, and Justina Ireland definitely leaning into the bookends, right? Not just the titles.
Oh yeah.
And their books, but all the bookends. The Light of the Jedi for phase called Light of the Jedi, Trials of the Jedi for phase called Trials of the Jedi, Into the Dark, Into the Light, a junior grade novel or middle grade novel. And
oh my gosh, novel. I didn't think about that.
I
did not see the connection there. Into the Dark, Into the Light.
Claudia Gray, young adult, Justina Ireland, middle grade. And I think, did she say it was about Vernestra?
No,
we don't know. Did she say what it's about?
I don't think she said much.
Well,
she wasn't even there.
That's true. Sorry.
Was
a Valiant Vow. So maybe.
I mean, speaking quick, I thought that was such a missed opportunity. Like, you're there to create the character that shows up in the show, and you're not there. Like,
maybe she couldn't make it. Who knows?
Oh no, that's terrible. Like, I would do everything in my power to be there, but anyway, you don't know what's going on in people's lives.
Things happen. But also to say, we talk about this being the end of the High Republic publishing initiative. Yeah, they're really leaning into that bookend. It's to bring it to an end, to some finality, and it's going to be very, very poetic, I think, in that way, and in the way, like, very rhythmic sense of kind of almost back in a way. We're back where we started with Trials of the Jedi, in Light of the Jedi, in that sense. But I think it's gonna serve us well to send us off, and then Kevin Scott's epilogue novel with Keith Trennis. But I don't know if that's gonna happen. there. Yeah, I mean, Chris, Joel, do you have thoughts? Any more thoughts on the book ending, on the framing, just on any of these reveals?
No, I'm just I guess okay. Here's the question.
Yeah.
I'm very much kind of curious. What kind of is the note the High Republic ends on? Is it a somber one? Is it an optimistic one? Is it kind of like? Is it sort of like the Phantom Menace, where it's like, if you kind of watch Phantom Menace in the vacuum, it's like, oh yeah, bad good guys won. We kicked the Trade Federation's butt. Gonna kiss that Trade franchise goodbye. Peace.
With the Palpatine theme under the.
I know. But then by all course, by the time of episode 3, it's like all goes downhill. But I do think in some ways, the High Republic is its own story.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to end the triumphant victory against the Nile? Kind of we did it. March on road. We kicked his butt. We did it. We the Jedi, we struggle, but we have overcome, as we will always overcome. And whenever the darkness calls, there will always be the light of the Jedi to break it, and we stand strong.
We passed the trials,
Yeah, we did. We passed the trials and whatnot. And then Acolyte kind of be its own thing, where it's like, okay, well, here's all the sissy stuff, and we're in the minutes going on. So I'm very kind of curious, like, what's the initial tone of how this whole series ends?
I mean, that's why Keith Trennis is so important, because she symbolizes the maybe they have this triumphalist tone, but it's not true. It's like Qui-Gon sensing something's amiss, and Keeve senses something's amiss, that the Jedi aren't who they've set out to be. They aren't who they were when I was newly knighted. They're afraid, and they're holed up in the temple.
And what the High Republic has done so well, even in Phase 2, is showcase the slow little cracks in the foundation that is the Jedi Order. Even 350 years before Phantom Menace, where I'm reading this, it's like, okay, you could start to see how things become what they become with Order 66, and just the Jedi just being so ambivalent toward everything else. But I mean, like any good Star Wars story, there's hope at the end of it, no matter how tragic and dire and just absolutely torn everybody has become. There's always that hopeful message right at the end that's enough to lift your spirits. So I don't know if it's
I don't see it being that dark. It's not going to be Revenge of the Sith dark, where everything's gone to crud.
Wait till you finish Cataclysm, then come talk to me, because that's man, that was hard to get through.
Okay, so the Republic still got a couple 300 years, but they don't fall just yet.
Yeah,
it's like they don't fall just yet. Palpatine hasn't showed up.
He's not born yet.
He's not born yet. Lord, we know. You never know. They might say something.
Dark Arts cloning.
I mean, Ian McDermott keeps claiming that Palpatine's over 100 years old. I mean, he said it at Celebration at one of the panels. He's like, he's like over 100 years old. I mean,
that makes sense. I always thought he was like in his 70s by the time of Revenge of the Sith, by the time of Return of the Jedi, and then 30 years to the Rise of Skywalker. He's got to be like at 100.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
I'm sure there's if there's a website we could check called Wikipedia.
If only there was a brand new Star Wars book that was out on April 25th that had something to do with Star Wars timelines. Oh man, I might be interested in a book like that.
Yeah,
maybe.
That'd be a really useful book to have.
That comes out tomorrow, by the way. That's tomorrow, right?
Pre-ordered and waiting for the door for Amazon. I'm like, give me my book before work.
See, we hear ring. If you see you suddenly get up out of your chair, that's why. We make a great point about tone and hope. I mean, that's the thing. I always think the real end of High Republic is Order 66. And we get Order 66, we get the Rise of the Empire. And then right after that, we get the birth of Luke and Leia and the twin sons. And so, yeah, that's true. There's always hope. But let's dash some hopes right now. So moving on a little bit. So Chris, I'll set this up for you. You messaged me. You've been messaging me. You've been reading Cataclysm. You've been messaging me just how much you love this book. So about 6:30, you're like, Oh, I love this book so much. I want to, and I do want to talk about it. So, hot off the press.
Don't spoil it though, because I haven't finished.
You finished it. You messaged me
I'm
precisely
gonna be
3 hours
a good
ago.
boy and not spoil anything.
You messaged me precisely 3 hours ago. Cataclysm by Lydia King. Non-spoiler, instant-ish 3 hours old reaction. Let's hear it. Because go ahead.
You want me to talk?
Yeah, take it away.
Oh, I thought you were looking at my message exactly to say what I said on there. But yes, I'll talk about it. Yeah, so Cataclysm, the Phase 2, Wave 2 novel, absolutely awesome novel by Lydia King, and she's her second Star Wars story she's written for from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back, the 212B medical scene with replacing Luke's hand. That was the only other thing she'd done in Star Wars. But man, oh man, like just give her all the Star Wars stories at this point, because she might be one of my favorite authors. What she manages to do with this book is showcase what happens at Dalna. I mean, we've been seeing all roads have been leading to Dalna. We've seen rumblings from Yoda in the High Republic Adventures comics for Phase 1. Mm-hmm. We've seen things with the Path of Deceit, where they've been laying the seeds of the Path of the Open Hand. And what I'll say about this is, if you really like the kind of tone for The Rising Storm by K. Van Scott, then it's gonna be right up your alley. I would go far as to say that this battle is even more brutal than the Battle of Valo. This is that moment in time that really showcases the Jedi in a very tough position of overwhelming odds. It's like the Spartans of 300. It felt so much like that, mixed with the Vietnam War, of just like the overwhelming odds. Even if they get out of this, is it really a victory? Because there's just so much death and destruction. And to me, just even beyond the battle itself, I think she does a great job of the characters. All the characters basically that are from Convergence. You have the backdrop of the Forever War with Iram and Rona, and there's a lot of development there. I had problems with Wave 1 of Phase 2 because it simply just wasn't as grandiose as I really enjoyed the tone and the setting that was in Phase 1. Light of the Jedi, Rising Storm was very much a galactic proportions, and we get there in this book. This is the book that delivers on all the setup. This is the payoff book that you've been looking for, because it's going to bring in all these characters with all their conflict. Now, I will say the conflict that these characters have, from the minor villain characters to like the minor Republic characters and everything in between, it was just amazing. You mentioned the mother and the daughter relationship between Axel and Keon Greylark. Some of the best conflict and resolution I've seen in a Star Wars book. There's moments in this book that I literally was cheering. It's like that kind of thing. Like, yes, like just the build up to these moments is like Return of the King-esque. Like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm reading this thing, imagining what is happening, because it's depicted so well by the writing. And you get to see the outlook of how important communication is. Like, it really builds upon the outlook of Phase 2, how it's all about exploration. You have these communication things, and this kind of goes into the reason of why Starlight Beacon was so big for the entire galaxy, because things like that happen in this book. You're like, okay, this is communication is the biggest asset that the Republic could use, and if it's not going well, then problems are being made. But you see how groups are radicalized. You see just so many moments where the buildup was great. I think the pacing in this book is fantastic. Yeah, the first third, it takes a little bit to build up. But after that, you see the convergence of all these characters. You got Jedi over here. You got the pacing of going between characters and they're intersecting. It was just, I think it's a masterful book. I think it's up there with Light of the Jedi, up there with Rising Storm. And this is really bringing home Phase 2. I actually really enjoyed the middle grade novel that kicked off Wave 2 as well, which is Quest for Planet X. I think the High Republic doesn't miss when it comes to the middle grade novels, even for Phase 1. I think every one of them has been a lot more mature for the age range that it needs to be. But yeah, no, everything with this book is there's really great earned moments in this book. This was one of those books, the rare books that I've read, where I just wanted to sit and finish this thing in one sitting. Like if I had the time, I would have, but life is busy, and I'm like at work, and I'm thinking about, what's gonna happen next with Axel Greylark? What's gonna happen next with Ziri, and all these characters that didn't really mean a whole lot to me for the Wave 1. I'm like, yeah, these characters are all right, but Axel was an exception. I always thought Axel from the Convergence book was the standout character. But then you're getting characters like Creighton Sun and Char Roy and Enya and a couple new characters and some legacy characters that I won't spoil that appear in this book that you're like, oh my gosh, I've never even imagined them doing something like that. So yeah, I mean, I can't give it as high as a recommendation as I can. This is as near perfect of a Star Wars book as I've read. That's like, there's one little nitpick I have. I won't say what it is. But other than that, this is a damn near perfect book for me, and I just literally finished it like 3 hours ago, and it's man, there's a lot to unpack after you read this book.
That, I mean, it's almost hard to hear that just because you've read so many Star Wars novels in your life. And so this is right there at the top. I mean, I believe you, but wow, okay. High praise. From what I hear, I mean, the big takeaway there is all these different characters, all the different plot lines really fitting together so well and so perfectly. All right, well, no pressure. I can't wait to read it. Got to finish Battle Scars first, but there we go. Yeah, and Joel, you're a few chapters into Cataclysm, right?
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. So, I've really enjoyed what I've read so far.
I promise I'll get to it soon. Got to read Quest for Planet X first, but
I gotta go back and listen to the Battle of Jeddah again, because the Battle of Jeddah audio drama is a pivotal piece of this story. And I feel like for Phase 2, like the novels, and I think everything is very, very important, and even the Path of Vengeance, I feel like, is going to be an absolute must-read novel, because it deals with characters that aren't completely addressed in this book. And I'm wondering, like, what's happening with these characters? And I realize, I have a whole nother book I have to read, and then after that, so I feel like after I read Path of Vengeance, it's basically going to tell us why Phase 2 is important. What's happening? What is going on with these characters? And why is it important for us to go back in time? And by the way, and I'll leave with this. So Cataclysm really makes me mad at Yoda.
Interesting.
There's something that happens in this book where I'm just like, oh my gosh, he's dogmatic, and this is why he ends up the way he is. And it's just, man, the choices that are made.
Good character writing. There we go. All right. Well, Chris, thanks for giving us that instant 3 hour fresh, hot off the grill reaction. So we're gonna go from that to the letdown. I think we would say is the letdown. Something's cooking. We don't quite know what. A lot of reference books in this publishing panel, which is fine.
I love a good reference books.
The reference books are fine. The reference are fine, but compared to last year's publishing panel, lots of reference. Anyway, also Return of the Jedi Fact Pop, which also comes out September 5th. There were 2 more reveals there. Kristen Baver, not writing who we thought she was writing. She's writing Size Noodles. And again, I'm really curious to hear her transition from a nonfiction writer to a fiction writer, from a journalist. I mean, the thing I suspect she'll say is it's all about storytelling anyway. So, and she's definitely enthusiastic, and I'm excited for her. She seems one of the good.
I don't understand how this woman writes as much as she does and does as much as she does. I mean, she doesn't sleep, I guess, because she hosts a Star Wars weekly show.
Yeah.
She hosts Celebration.
Yeah.
She writes articles on StarWars.com.
Mm-hmm.
She's constantly writing some kind of book. It's like, where does she find the time?
Sure. She writes the script for the Star Wars show.
Oh,
this week, whatever. She writes the script.
Really? Oh my god.
I mean, at least I think she's the lead writer for it too. So for her own script, it's great.
Wow.
Also, Adam Christopher. This is great. Revisiting Enric Pride from Rise of Skywalker, but also his brave role in Shadow of the Sith. Very interesting little cameo.
That's Sticks and Ewoks.
Yeah. So yeah, it's true. And a little flask. So that's good. And then, as I said, a literal smorgasbord of reference books. I'll get to why in a second. The High Republic Character Encyclopedia, Art of Jedi Survivor, Secrets of the Wookiees, internals again, Kristen Baver's 100 Objects book. Some interesting internals from that we got, and yes, literally the ultimate cookbook. So Chris, you call this a nothing burger, but there's literally a bantha burger, right? and a Chisapler shake. Looks tasty. But yeah. And then lastly, as mentioned, tomorrow comes to tomorrow. Timelines.
Yes.
Which delves into everything. It's the I think it's a Star Wars.com article saying it delves into everything from Din Djarin's identity to the world between worlds.
And they said in the lead up to this, and it's probably not much, but they said something before the High Republic. I'm like, what? Right. They haven't established anything in canon. It's before the High Republic, so it might be as simple as telling us the timeline.
Did you were you there? Were you there for the movie panel by any chance?
Yeah.
If you did you notice the timeline that they?
Oh yeah, that's probably what they have in there.
Yeah.
They had Dawn of the Jedi, Old Republic. High Republic,
Fall of the Jedi,
it's like Fall of the Jedi, Age of the Empire, all the way to New Jedi Order. So it's like there's clearly not a story thing yet for Old Republic, but they're gearing up for something.
I mean, it's maybe marketing for that film, I guess. But yeah, that's interesting. That's good to know. Chris, do you have thoughts on this panel?
Yeah, the best part of the panel, right, was before the panel.
Nice.
So I was just hanging out there in my Cal Kestis cosplay, and they're warming up the crowd, the before the show kind of show thing, and they're like, "Oh, everybody with a lightsaber, come on up front." And it's like, well, what the hell? Let me go up there. So here I am, standing in front of about 1,000-something people with like about maybe 6-7 other people with lightsabers, and we went around the room in a competition to see who's got the best lightsaber skills. So one at a time, we went out there in like this little semicircle in front of the crowd, and we're just like doing our best lightsaber choreography, and it was fun, but I was totally not prepared. And like some of the other people that were there must have been like people of the Saber Guild or something, because they were literally like doing like cartwheels with one hand, throwing up the lightsaber, catching it behind the back, doing like crazy stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just trying to like not let BD1 like fall off the shoulder because he kind of moves around a lot. So I'm like, oh, hopefully he doesn't break. And then the second trial was we turned to the person next to us and fought them for about 30 seconds in front of the crowd. Everybody was cheering, saw their music. So I turned next to the girl next to me, and she had like the Ezra Bridger, like little like $30 lightsaber with like the little blaster thing on it. So here I am, like there's video of me doing it. I got to put together on my vlog. So we did that, and we did one more chance of like fighting, and then we wrapped it up, and I got like a cool little sticker for participating. But yeah, that was fun. I was like, yeah, I got my little my little glory, my little, time to shine, so to speak. And then that set up the panel. And then the panel, I was disappointed because they didn't talk about the books that were coming out imminently that I wanted to know about. And I'm like, oh, you got the cool Red Blade story coming out. You got this other story coming out, and a big 0 on that. And I was like, oh.
That's surprising. That's kind of bizarre.
I'm excited for Red Blade too.
Yeah,
I know
it'd be great, and they didn't talk about it.
I like stories that aren't like, besides the High Republic, which is doing its own thing. I love the stories that come out that aren't in promotion for something. You know, I like them just like out of the blue. We're gonna just talk about this character, this side character. That's not even a main character. This random side character from a comic book,
like one issue of a comic.
Yeah, one issue of a comic book. We're gonna just flesh her out. You know, let's do a story there. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like Dominic Jones was right about this. He said, yeah, usually the publishing panel at a celebration usually is kind of lame. For whatever reason, they don't bring out the big guns like they do at New York Comic Con. So
when's New York Comic Con this year?
It's in October. Yeah.
Oh, I gotta wait till October. Well, I have my own little hypothesis, and I think maybe also some of this might be because a lot of the other eras are still kind of being occupied by the Screen Can. They got the Mandoverse going with the New Republic era. Andor, I guess, is covering the Age of Rebellion. Clone Wars pretty much is all the Fall of the Jedi era and Tale of the Jedi. And there's nothing really right, unless they're good. I mean, the next initiative is the Old Republic book initiative, which I think might be cool. But maybe, but like, it's like, yeah, it's kind of got to find some places to squish the solo, not the individual books.
The Kira book wasn't even mentioned. I don't think. I was like, what the heck?
And E.K. Johnson, I mean, she's mentioned it on her Instagram live, so it's happening. That's the thing. These books are happening. It's not like films where they announce them and they cancel them, or they pretend that they didn't announce them. Like, it's still happening. It's just, you think because last year's publishing panel was great. Had so much juicy thing because they had those 3 novels in the summer. In that summer.
That was fun.
That's bizarre. Fair enough. Any last thoughts on publishing panel?
I mean, I like the fact that they're getting a more nonfiction High Republic content because it's not going to be just a publishing thing pretty soon here, but the fact that it's going to give us images of the characters, because I mean, I hope that they give us images of the characters that we haven't seen, like especially in Phase 2. There's a lot of Jedi that we have not seen, and I want to like picture them in my mind, like the character of Enya or the character of Rilro, the Syrian guy, and all these sorts of things. Ziri, Fantu, like all these different characters that I have no idea what they look like. So it'll be fun, hopefully, to see like depictions of them. And
see, that seems to be the kind of the point of this book, but one of the points. Finally reveal all that art. All right, let's move on a little bit. A few more news items. There was the Marvel panel. The only thing I saw online about the Marvel panel was Dark Droids. Of course, the horror-fueled crossover event featuring Ajax Sigma, High Republic era droid who's on a quest for revenge, revealed in the Revelations one-shot from last November by Mark Guggenheim. Somehow comes back. I mean, he's a droid. He can, there's a program he can just come back. Whatever, it's fine. Made its return in the Han and Chewie comic, also by Mark Guggenheim. Still, interesting note, Charles Soule is the one shepherding the event with the flagship short run with Luke Ross beginning this August, art by Luke Ross. And then, like with most of the Crimson Saga, not all of it, most of it, well, the first two, War of the Bounty Hunters and Crimson Reign, there will be the crossovers into Vader, Aphra, Bounty Hunters, and the ongoing run by Charles Soule.
Now, was this build as a mini series, or are they just doing a single issue Dark Droids to like kick it off, and then it's only going to last like a month? Because I'm a little bit confused because they're like, all the month of August there's going to be a crossover. I mean, I'm down if it's a single, if it's a single month, like good, like War of the Bounty Hunters and all that. I feel like I was a little bit long in the tooth. Like it literally lasted over a year when you go from like War of the Bounty Hunters to Crimson Reign to Hidden Empire. It's like it is a little bit long. So I would like a Vader Down or a Screaming Citadel-esque, like a short little thing, because I mean, really, how much are you going to cram it between Empire and Return of the Jedi? I was hoping for some kind of official announcement at this panel to be like, okay, this 2023 is the final final year for this era. Then 2024, we're going to kick off Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
But again, we have San Diego Comic-Con coming up. We have New York Comic-Con coming up. So they might want to talk more about a big comic book thing that happens at one of those conventions since they specialize in those. But yeah, I mean, I think that's got to be around the corner. If this event is going on like August, then
yeah,
I don't think there's going to be too much, especially since they were talking about, obviously Luke is going to construct his green lightsaber in this. So there's going to be a lot of things that we've been waiting for to happen. Now we just need a battle of Tanab somewhere in there.
Yeah,
because
there you go.
It's still kind of guess of like, how the heck did Lando become a general so quick? But
Lando and Holdo at the Battle of Tanab.
Oh yeah,
I think she's there, given what they set up. Yeah, it's weird. So the article, Star Wars.com article said flagship short run.
Oh,
so now this is a confusing thing: is Marvel, when they have a one shot, they still call it number one.
Yeah,
because they want to drum up excitement. I don't know.
Yeah.
They shouldn't do that.
Open to become a ongoing series just in case. I think.
Yeah, maybe just to leave the option open, but I think it's gonna be. It makes sense with flagship short run, like 5-6 issues.
Yeah,
but that's the big question, right? Is it's a cool concept, great story, great idea. The timing is really perplexing. I mean, Joel, you also mentioned this last week with Doc. It's yet another story to tell before Return of the Jedi, and it's not until August, right? Which is, again, it's bizarre to me because they really should get to Return of the Jedi this year. It's the 40th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting to it with those one shots.
Yeah.
That are picking up moments from Return of the Jedi and then turning the clock back a few months or who knows how long. But they need to get to the characters and events of Return of the Jedi. I mean, the Vader comic and the Star Wars Ongoing comic are making a beeline because those are the two main characters of Return of the Jedi, right? What I wondered is two things. Why not do this a little later? Why not slot it into the aftermath year? Somehow we don't know what those characters are up to between Endor and Jakku, including Luke, but they got it. They're doing this for a reason. I hope it earns it. I hope it's significant enough for the characters, especially the ones around it, like Afra and like Lusha and Tonga, or Tonga and Lusha and Valance, and Sabe. These characters that don't show up in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
I hope it's significant enough also for the events of Return of the Jedi somehow for R2 and 3PO. I mean, I know 3PO obviously gets involved in this somehow. So yeah, it is a little perplexing, but in Charles we trust.
Yeah, I think also is at this time period you have a lot of cyborgs between Vader and Valance. Sure. I think it could lead to a very interesting possibility. Like if you have different kind of cyborgs, what happens to them? Are they also affected by all this?
And Lando's buddy, no, like his name,
Lobot.
Lobot.
Yeah.
Lobot.
Yeah, Lobot's still kicking, right? He got his thing taken out, and he's kind of on his last legs. But yeah, he's still kicking. So, I mean, I couldn't see anything else from this Marvel panel. Chris, was there anything else at the Marvel panel?
They were talking to Ethan Sachs about bounty hunters. You got Jango Fett. That's going to be a presence felt by Boba Fett, which is very cool. Obviously, I like this idea of about them switching up the teams. It doesn't look like Tasu Leech is going to be part of it. Doesn't look like the Gand or the Protocol Droid Bounty Hunter or 4OM or Zuckuss are going to be in there anymore. But then they're going to fill it in with Boba Fett and Dirge and whoever else. I think there's one more person there. So I like the idea. Like, it's called Bounty Hunters. Let's play around with slotting in different characters.
It's interesting to note about Tasu Leech because he's on his way out in that.
Mm-hmm. He's the last issue, he was like, what the hell is going on here? I want out kind of thing.
Okay, well, before we move on, I don't have this in notes, Joel, so don't worry about this. But you had your own panel with Ethan Sachs and Adam Christopher.
Oh yeah,
and Dom and Kieran, and I forget who the last person was, but
Matt Booker from Fan of the Tracks.
Right. How'd that go? I admit I haven't gotten around to seeing it yet, but how'd that go?
It a lot better than I thought it would. I mean, it was the first time moderating a panel, especially at a big Star Wars celebration. I was like, oh, am I in over my head over this thing? I had, a rough outline of what I wanted to talk about with the bounty hunters, smugglers, gangsters, and scum and villainy through the years. So very much talking about the Star Wars underworld. It was great that I was able to grab 2 Star Wars writers because between Adam and Ethan, they had a lot of cool insight that I was kind of asking about different things about what their process is writing, what characters they pick, decisions they make with certain characters. So it went really well. I feel like we had a great flow. We were talking about fun things too, about like, equipment of bounty hunters, starships of the bounty hunters, favorite storylines from Legends and Canon, and just a whole bunch of stuff. We had audience questions. We had quite a few people come up and ask all of us like just really fun questions to answer. I'd even think about myself. We play a fun little game at the end of just like, okay, just name all the bounty hunters and underworld characters you can until you can't. And we kind of went down the line, and that was a real fun way of ending the whole thing. Yeah, but it went pretty much right into the very end of that full hour that we had, and we had a pretty packed room. I mean, it was a lot larger of a room than I was expecting for a fan stage. It went all the way down. I mean, it had a capacity of 600 people. We probably had, I would say, maybe 200-300 people in the room, and that was while a Clone Wars panel was going on, while a High Republic meetup was going on. It was prime time on a Saturday night at the convention, so I was a little bit worried that we might only have like a handful of people, but I was very happy for the turnout. And one really fun part that happened was as we were waiting for the previous group to get out of there, we were waiting by the door, and there was like a Dengar cosplayer that came up, was real friendly, and he had mentioned that he could not physically sit down because of his armor and his costume. So then I said, hey, if you don't mind, I think it'd be pretty cool if you were just like to stand next to our panel table the entire time and look menacing as Dengar does with his gun and everything. He's like, sure. So we literally had Dengar just like standing there the whole time, just having a blast. So I think that was fun. And I think people really enjoyed the extra little bit of bounty hunter at our panel there.
That's perfect. That's so great.
So yeah, I would definitely do it again. If I get the opportunity to, I would love to be part of a panel, whether I'm a panelist or I'm a moderator. Once again, I think it went real smooth, and it was very, very, very fun.
I hear there's a convention happening in October.
Yeah. We're gonna have to see if we can do something about that.
I keep saying that I may actually have to do stuff for work. I'll have to sort that out with my bigger ups, but yeah, I'll definitely do my best to be there. I'm mostly just happy for you and Dom, my friends, to pull that off. That's really great.
No, we're secretly jealous. How dare you? No, we're great.
So, and you can find that on your YouTube channel, right, Chris?
Yep. Yeah. Right on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/StarRaptor. Just look for the title, Bounty Hunters, Smugglers, and Gangsters, and Scum and Villainy Through the Years. It's right up on there.
There we go. All right. So I'm going to make you talk a little more here. I'm going to set the stage, set the scene. So I did watch the High Republic panel on YouTube, not live, but eventually later.
Yeah.
And they talk about different reveals, different comics and novel reveals, whatever. And then the panel goes, the live stream goes away, goes back to the main stage. What happens next?
Oh yeah. So they say we're bringing out our 10th Lumineer, and here comes Leslie Headland right on stage in front of the huge crowd in the Galaxy stage. It was great. It was fantastic, and that's really all I needed was her to just be there.
Yeah,
and because I was really soaking it in, like she was talking for a good length of time about the importance of canon and the importance of the publishing in Star Wars, and like why it's so important, and why for her it basically helped her stay as a Star Wars fan in between the films coming out. There was a gap of 10 years between original trilogy and no, there was a gap of like 20 years, I don't know, between Revenge of the Sith and Return of the Jedi. You had the Thrawn trilogy, you had all those books filling in the expanded universe. So she was talking about how that kept Star Wars alive and why it's so important. And then she went into the Acolyte and acknowledging all the authors that were there in front of her and saying, like, I wanted to make sure I did right by this. So we're in contact, we're talking about characters, we're doing this and that and this and that. And she's like,
my heart.
yeah. I was like, oh, this is what I want to hear. This is awesome. She's one of us, she's one of us. And then they show the Acolyte trailer, and Dominic was so happy because he didn't get into the publishing panel or the studio panel on Thursday or Friday. So they showed it for them because I was in that panel, but I was able to watch it again. I was just excited because I'm like, oh, I almost forget everything that happened the first time around watching it. So now I'm able to like anticipate certain moments of the trailer. And I mean, that trailer really hits because it's, we say this a lot, like, oh, it's so different than what we've seen before in Star Wars. But it's true because the iconography. I always screw that word up. There you go. Thank you, Joel. Just all the High Republic stuff in your face, from the robes to the way it looks like the prequels.
Gold robes,
live action, amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome. And you don't see like any Sith or any characters, but you see characters in the shadows, and you see like the cloaked character that is the lady from the Matrix. Oh, what's her name?
Oh, Carrie-Anne Moss.
That's right. Yeah, you get to see her like in the cantina, in the seedy cantina, like with the cloak on. Then you see like another character with like this veil type of headpiece that has like these daggers, and it's going up against a Jedi, and it's like super quick kung fu type of moves. She was explaining that the Acolyte, funnily enough, is basically a cross between Frozen and Kill Bill.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that was something I did not expect.
So are we gonna finally get Elsa as a Sith Lord?
There we go.
Yeah. So
and then the big thing.
The big thing. So anyway, she's like, yeah, there's a character that is in this that was in the books. And then she introduces Vernestra Rowe, shows a picture, and it, funnily enough, is actually a character that's played by her wife in the show. So we got to see a live action shot, a photo of the character, and I'm like, whoa. She reminded me of Nebula from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, the bald.
She did.
Yeah. So just
somehow
green.
Vern shaves her head
like
to
Nebula,
some
just green. Yeah. So that was awesome, and that's when the crew of people that were sitting behind me absolutely lost it, and I heard people crying behind me, like literally sobbing, like audibly loud in a crowd of that many people. Like, damn, they were crying loud. And I was like, I felt something too. Like in that room, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy to see a book character on the screen from a publishing initiative. Like, this is insane. And I was thinking about you, Matthew. I was like, oh man, he would have killed the VR right now.
I would be in the row behind, bawling my eyes out. Come on.
Then I looked behind, and there was like 2 or 3 people cosplaying for Vernestra Rowe, and like not able to keep their emotions in check. I'm like,
I don't blame them.
I was like, holy crap, that was one of the best moments of Celebration Europe, because it was like this big milestone moment. Or it's just,
it's interesting her phrasing of Frozen meets Kill Bill. I mean, I see the Kill Bill influence with the kung fu and the knives, but I feel like the Frozen thing is interesting. That's an interesting word of phrase. It's like, well, what is the story of Frozen but a young woman discovering their powers and what they do with their powers? So I think that's an interesting. That's an interesting kind of look at, like, maybe that's where the story's going. I said, but maybe a darker twist than what we got in Frozen. Or if there's an Anna, maybe this Anna is not going to last long. So I'm just kind of thinking about that.
Yeah, that's we break into song, let it go. Not the light side go. I don't know. A little bit more news. This is also from the reveals and from StarWars.com, and I think it might have been also from the showcase panel a little bit. Kalnaka comes on the screen.
Oh yeah,
played by Jonas Sortamu.
Yeah,
live action Wookiee Jedi. Finally getting that. And then another quote from Leslie Headland. She really wanted to tell a story from the perspective of the villains and the High Republic, the prime of the Jedi, and the time of peace was the ideal setting. So this is when the bad guys are outnumbered. They're the underdogs. It seemed like the perfect part of the timeline to explore in live action. Joel, that kind of gets at what you were saying about kind of this underdog finding her power in the Frozen, but in a Kill Bill-esque way. Joel, I'll do live action Wookiee Jedi and this Leslie Headland quote about from the perspective of underdog villains. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, hey, Wookiee Jedi. I mean, that was on the cover of the Flight of Jedi, so that's cool. And we know that they got the gold robes, so they already got the aesthetic of the High Republic down. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I think this might be kind of interesting in terms of like the tone of the High Republic, where I think maybe the book will have that more optimistic from the perspective of the Jedi tone. That's what most of these books have been from. But here's like now the High Republic. It's like, nope, this is what the Sith have been up to the whole time. And maybe this is where kind of the rug is pulled under for you a little bit from like, instead of all this, we're light in life and we're all Republic. Like, oh no, here's how the Sith view things, and it ain't pretty. So they're gonna start tapping into how we eventually see the Republic and why the corruption comes from and whatnot. So I think that's very interesting.
What you're just saying, it makes me wonder, because the Nihil are the ones that are also like, we're not the Republic. Screw that. If the Nihil are going to have some kind of presence in this, or are they going to, are they going to, I should say, are they have some kind of presence? Probably not actually full on show up, but definitely that influence there. The Nihil. I mean, we know Mark Yunro, he has that lightsaber. He has what's his name's lightsaber from great grandmother's lightsaber, that great grandmother's boyfriend, Jedi boyfriend.
Kevmo.
Yeah, Kevmo. He has Kevmo's lightsaber. So there's some connection.
Wait, say that again.
Markian has Kevmo's lightsaber.
Really?
Right. Because great grandma, her boyfriend, her Jedi Padawan boyfriend, takes it off of him because he dies.
I thought that was Loden Greatstorm's lightsaber. He had.
Fair enough. I thought it was Kevmo's, but I don't know. Anyway, he has a lightsaber. The point being, he has a lightsaber. There's some connection between the Nihil and the Sith, and if it could just be a spiritual connection of resistance to the Republic, similar to. I mean, here's another question: is this going to be? All of these. The discontent in the Outer Rim, with the Trade Federation and the Techno Union, and all these other factions, 100 years later, or who knows how many years later, start to really have this discontent, and then of course the taxation of outlying trade routes, and et cetera, et cetera. We know the story. Is that going to be part of it? The Sith manipulating that all the way through.
In the trailer, they showed a Nemoidian, and I never been happier to see a freaking Nemoidian in a trailer. I literally.
How do you look? I don't think we haven't seen Nemoidian live action in years. So how do you look? Did they change like the prosthetics, or do you look just like the Phantom Menace?
Look just like you did from the Phantom Menace.
Nice.
And that makes the credence for if that's 100 years before Phantom Menace, then you got the Trade Federation, because in even some of the books. That I think it was Master and Apprentice. Isn't the Trade Federation there?
I think so. They should be around.
I mean, it's the Checker Corporation's the big deal there, but
the Zerka Corporation.
Whatever's pronounced, Zerka, however it's pronounced.
Zerka.
It's 10 o'clock. So I'm excited again. We are the home of the High Republic here on the Star Wars Underworld Network. I know the flagship's going to talk about the show. We're going to talk about the show. It sounds like it's going to be my favorite show ever. Just to put it out there.
I'm excited. I'm hyped, man. This is sort of like Andor tone, but with more lightsabers and force power people.
Yeah.
So
that's
best of both worlds for me. So and Sith Lords. Maybe we'll get some Sith history. You do that put it over the top for me, because I love my Sith history.
I should probably just cheat and try and find the trailer, because
I did, but I don't hear it anymore.
Yeah. They got to release it. They got to release it eventually.
The shot that got me was the last shot when you have like 8 or 10 Jedi igniting their lightsabers all at once, like ready for battle, like something's coming. It's like, oh my gosh, that's High Republic to a T right there.
Well, that's the
beautiful
dedication of Starlight and
yeah,
that's kind of scene.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing it in live action is just come on. Yeah, there we go. They did release a trailer publicly to the universe, up even across the border into Canada. It has Space Wizards, it has Rebels, it has Senators. It's the Ahsoka trailer. The series starts in August. We haven't had much time to talk about this. Maybe we've talked about it a little bit, but we talk about it because it's from Celebration. Sabine, Hera, even Ezra and Thrawn, the name drop of Heir to the Empire in live action. I'm wondering if there's going to be more of an uncanny plateau for me, especially with Sabine and Hera. I don't quite know. I'll see Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Natasha Liu Bordizzo. Well, there'll be time. I mean, Ahsoka, I'm kind of there with Rosario Dawson, but we'll see. Definitely,
I have the Thrawn image with me.
I mean, Thrawn and Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn. The big deal. I think that's going to be an easy one. I always thought Tia Sakara would be live action Sabine until last year when I saw Natasha Liu Bordizzo come out on the stage, but. I'll have the benefit of the doubt, give them the benefit of the doubt of just getting over the transition from animation to live action, because it definitely is a live action continuation of the Rebels story that Filoni wanted to bring us. Also, Mon Mothma in a scene in the Senate.
Yeah.
So they're finally giving us
crossover.
The crossover, sort of an Endor crossover, but later in the timeline, finally giving us the New Republic side of the story, even more than Mando season 3 did. And more importantly, the most important thing is the character question here. Ahsoka sensing the dark. Is it Thrawn's Darksider people, or is it the First Order? And so my key character question then is, how does Ahsoka see herself and her place in the galaxy at this time? Is it kind of like Luke on Ahch-To, being kind of on her own, afraid of the dark? Like she sees in Grogu, I saw this darkness and I got to move away. This is where she's at in this timeline, in this time. And so how does she see herself and her place in the galaxy? And does that evolve through the series? Those are my character questions. Chris, I haven't heard your thoughts on this trailer, so go ahead. What do you think about the Ahsoka trailer?
Yeah, it was one hell of a rock show in there when they played that trailer, because I was in the room for the first day, and it was like, wow. When they showed Hera, I started to get the feels. Like when they brought the actress out and showed the image of her, I said, oh my gosh, it's happening. It's happening. It's Rebels season 5 in live action.
Ewan McGregor's wife, Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah, but seeing the locations, like Lothal was there.
That's true.
The X-Wings flying by Lothal was just such a cool treat. But then I was thrown for a loop with these Darksider characters. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? We did not know anything about these Force users. What's going on here? Obviously, Thrawn, I damn near lost my voice by the end of that hour and a half. Thanks in part to that one moment when he showed up. I just went ballistic. And I'd even, like, the first few times I watched the trailer, I didn't even comprehend that they said Heir to the Empire. It's like the second or third time I was like, oh my gosh, they are going so hard for this whole adaptation of Heir to the Empire right now. And then watching Mando now, really seeing those things come together, it's clearly evident that that's what they're aiming for. But yeah, I mean, I didn't catch Ezra the first 2 times I watched the trailer. Until I got home and I watched it on my nice big screen. I was like, oh, okay, his little hologram. I see what they did there.
The Leo point.
Yeah, I was a little yeah. I was a little thrown off by Sabine's characterization. I think with the long hair, she doesn't really like look like her very much. And I'm like, wait, who? I was like, is that Sabine? Like, it didn't like, it wasn't like instant for me. You know what I mean? So
she seems a little too happy.
I guess maybe.
I didn't take that. Really, I thought she looked a little more distressed.
All right. Fair enough. Sorry, Chris, keep going.
But yeah, no, it was a really great trailer. I feel like it was a lot better of a trailer than the Mandalorian trailers they've been putting out, because they put out a Mandalorian show, like everybody on the internet's like looking for it for 2 months prior to coming out. And then a trailer comes out and you're just like, yeah, it was fine. And a lot of Disney Plus trailers are like that. Like they're just so par for the course. It's like, we'll show you a little bit of things, but not too much. But I feel like the Ahsoka trailer was more like a theatrical trailer, in that there was a lot of good, like, ooh, moments that I haven't been getting a lot lately from the Disney Plus shows.
Yeah, it definitely goes into the themes and the tone of the show more, that they are leaning into the Space Wizards more than even we thought. I mean, we kind of know a few things about Ahsoka, about the show, but I mean, it is Ahsoka. She is a Space Wizard. What do you want? Joel, do you have any more thoughts on the Ahsoka trailer?
Yeah, I remember with you, Matthew. Her look, it's liffy, not that great. I like Sabine maybe more. I mean, I know she's gonna get her short hair. There is a picture out there of her short hair. So she will have short hair, but I actually quite like Sabine. She actually seems a little bit more just kind of like, look at Ahsoka, like, what were you doing in the facility? Who are you? Like, yeah, we know Ezra's gone. Why are you here?
I guess I'll have to watch it again. Yeah, interesting. Anyway, keep going.
She's like, they're kind of like that. And so be like, so it's like, there's a little animosity there. She's looking at that as she seems to be in Ezra's old house. She's kind of looking at the hologram, like, my buddy's gone. It's like those Darksiders. They look really cool. The bearded one and the cool is, I guess, is evil Padawan. Someone says she got a Padawan braid on her hair, so it's like she had like an evil Padawan. Yeah, and I guess like you, I'm kind of curious, like, what is the character conflict here? Like, we got the plot conflict of Thrawn's out there. He's up to no good, and his helpers and his followers, they want him back. But like, what's the character conflict? Which is something I felt like Mando was missing this season. But I want to know, like, like, what's she feeling? What's Sabine feeling? What's Hera feeling? What are we all feeling here? Like, what do we have to overcome personally? Well, beyond just, we gotta find Ezra, and Thrawn might be out there, so be careful. But it's like, what's Ahsoka's mental state at the moment? It definitely feels fresh. It seems like we've had 4 seasons of Favreau written TV. Let's see what Filoni can bring to us. What he's penned. So I just think even though it's part of the Mandoverse, which I think we got to really start thinking about whether or not we should call it that, because Filoni's not even talking about Mandalorian. He's talking about, this is a story about the New Republic versus the Imperial Remnant. So it doesn't seem like Din probably will play a part, but it's like, if it's not, Mando's not the main star here. But so I'm very curious to see, like, what's Filoni's penned show gonna look like
with
sure.
his character.
Yeah,
with his characters and kind of characters. They got the rebel crew. So that is certainly something I'm excited, and it does. You're right. It does feel very cinematic. There's the story is interesting. I just hope like there's also a character story here as well. Beyond just, we gotta find Thrawn because he's out there.
I sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was gonna throw out a crazy theory.
All right.
Do we have a name for the blonde girl?
Oh wait, is it official? Yes. I think they said it. I think their names are bearded guy's named Balon and the blonde girl's named Shin.
Oh, I guess that theory is thrown out the window.
But it's not necessarily
Mara Jade. It's Mara Jade.
You never know.
Maybe a spiritual successor. Maybe she's like a spiritual.
Yeah, but it could be just like a.
I mean, Luke, he needs. No, I won't go there. It's not the sum of her characters to be Luke's love interest. She's more important than that. I mean, she's definitely, Mara Jade is definitely connected to Thrawn, and as a Force user connected to Thrawn. So.
Bringing back everybody else. Paleon's back. Rook was back in Rebels, so who else is missing now?
People have been clamoring for her for a long time. So, I'm excited for the show. I think it's, until the Acolyte comes out, it may well be my favorite show. Kenobi wasn't as riveting as I thought it would be, so I'm always out there for the Space Wizards first. So, looking forward to what we got. Chris, do you have any final thoughts on Ahsoka, and then on Star Wars Celebration Europe as a whole experience?
Yeah, no, Ahsoka is definitely higher up on my radar. I will say that. I think getting as they build it like more of a samurai adventure rather than Mando, which is kind of an amalgamation of Western and cop procedural apparently from time to time. But moving on from that, we didn't talk about Skeleton Crew. I feel like that's been really going under the radar this weekend with Star Wars Celebration. Like no one's talking about it. I seen footage. It looks freaking awesome. I gotta say, it looks
there's
great.
the labor issues. It's probably
it's the dark horse of certainly, I think, of the shows.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely a dark horse, but it is literally what they set it out to be. It's like the Amblin Stranger Things vibe. There's literally a shot in the trailer that they showed us where it's a Star Wars neighborhood with like little speeder cars like going down the block, and like the kids get lost and the parents are, where's the kids at? And then Vane from Mando season 3 shows up at one point, and they're on this ship, and the next thing you know, Jude Law's character is using the Force in front of the kids to like get them unlocked out of this cage. And that was like the big moment. It's like, oh my gosh, this guy's either Force sensitive or maybe he is a Jedi. Who knows? But I like the theory that he was Lor San Tekka. But I guess that's out the window because Lor San Tekka is not Force sensitive. You know, so, but I can't wait for that one. The kids were on stage. They all were very charismatic for young actors there. They had a lot of energy, and that show looks really fun.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch it. But yeah, it's sure. It's again, it's not really on my radar because it's just. I mean, maybe that's the problem with all these shows set in this era. You're gonna have priorities now, and people are doing priorities different things. I don't know. Joel, you have any? So go, Chris.
No, I was gonna also say some other things about Celebration, but Joel, you can go ahead about.
No, I get that. I mean, even this year, I was sort of like, well, I think I might be more interested in Ahsoka just overall, just from what I've heard, and just kind of like even more before Mando, like what I've heard, whatnot, and I felt Skeleton Crew was I actually was a little more interested in Skeleton Crew too. It's like, well, this sounds so different and unique that it's like, well, I kind of have to be interested. I'm kind of just gradually interested. It's like, well, it doesn't sound like anything I've ever heard, and it's like, well, I've already got 2 seasons of Mando, so I know what Mando's like, so. Yeah, I kind of just naturally just curious because it's new and sounds very fresh. And I mean, that's sort of why I think I've always been more hyped for Ahsoka and especially Skeleton Crew. Because they just seem the most fresh. While Mando, I mean, I got my problem with like, I got 3 seasons of Mando, and Book of Boba Fett's pretty much another Mando. So it's like these seem the most freshly and different despite being in the same era. So I'll be curious to see how they just pan out.
Chris, any more thoughts on Celebration?
Yeah, I seen the first 2 episodes of Young Jedi Adventures set in the High Republic. Really charming show, and it's great to see a show that is out there aimed for, the younger kids, 5, 8 years old, whatever it may be. But even as an adult, I enjoyed it. And don't go into the show looking for the secrets of the Nile or the Old Republic Easter eggs or anything like that. But it is nice to see, like, we keep looking at the Acolyte, like, oh, it's the first High Republic. Not technically, in about a week's time, we're gonna have our first screen of the High Republic and seeing the vectors, seeing the robes of the High Republic, and that was just fun. But it's a very good educational show that's gonna teach kids lessons and just like all good Star Wars does, but at a much at this level. And it's very colorful. The animation is fantastic. The voice acting is great, and it's like that serialized Saturday morning cartoon thing that Star Wars has never really had.
It comes out on my birthday.
Yeah. So what you're saying, Chris, is there's not a scene in Adventures of the High Republic where Yoda's teaching them the alphabet and goes, R for Revan, Dark Lord of the Sith. They were.
At least not yet, anyways.
Yeah, you never know.
But no, I've seen the little shorts on YouTube and it looks cute. So.
Yeah, I need to get into that. Yeah. But Chris, as an experience, you've been to a few celebrations before.
Yeah.
Already. As an experience, how does this one rank?
Okay.
Being in England.
Yeah. So from a announcement standpoint, this is the best one. I mean, you guys seen all the announcements. It was absolutely insane that first day. The hour and a half panel or whatever, how long it was just like, it was just like getting a year's worth of Star Wars news in an hour and an hour and a half, and it was like overload. Felt like I was part of a rock concert because people were just absolutely, the noise in that room. Everybody was just going berserk. Then the movie announcements, I was really hoping to hear about the movies we got. That everything I wanted and more was announced during Star Wars Celebration. As far as the convention itself, and I think Dominic might have said this on the main flagship show, I think they have outgrown that convention center because it was like the first convention I just had no interest in even shopping really, because it was so crowded you couldn't even move. Like, it was bad. Even on like Friday when the tickets weren't even technically sold out, they weren't even checking into badges. Like, I feel like people were just walking in a convention center. They weren't checking badges. It was crazy. So like, there could have been 20,000 people there. They would have never known because they weren't checking anybody.
That's a fire hazard.
It was very much a fire hazard, and it was frustrating. Like, even my girlfriend was like, "Okay, I got to go back to the hotel for a couple hours. Like, I can't stand all these people here." It's like, all right, I'll see you later. But it was crazy how many people were there, and I didn't like the setup even of the convention center without all that. I feel like the XL Center in London, it's just one straight like mile long building, and you got stuff on either side that you can go to for your stages, but it's just too much darn walking. I feel like at least in Chicago, I feel like the McCormick Center is like the best example of a layout because there's like multiple floors. And even Anaheim, I really enjoyed Anaheim because it's also in really nice weather, so there was a lot of congregating outside. People were all over. Whereas London, it was like raining half the time. That's the London weather. You can't really complain too much about, what you're getting into.
It's like Toronto. What do you want?
From the community sense, it wasn't as good as the other celebrations I've been to. Maybe it was because half of you guys weren't even there, so it was kind of like a little bit smaller scale. Me and Dominic were powering around the whole time, along with Kieran and Rob. So it was kind of smaller scale. And I just didn't like the layout of the convention as much. But, being in Europe was awesome. Never been there before. So seeing and hearing all the different accents was kind of neat. As one of the few Americans that was there, it was kind of cool. Like, being the odd man out for a change and experiencing culture and the transportation and the adventures around England, especially during that time that me and Dominic went on, and just little funny things here and there that were happening. It's like those experiences of, recording podcasts, different things outside of the convention is always the memories that you tend to latch on more than anything else, because it's like the moments with the social part of the conventions. That's really the part that I look forward to the most, catch up with people, make new friends, and did both of those things. So overall, really, really cool. And I went really, really hard at celebrations. So as far as like no naps, again, very little sleep. So by the end of the last day, my body basically had it, and I was like, okay, my body's rebelling against me now, but at least I made it through the convention.
There we go. you call it the trial of the Jedi.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's what I heard. The Excel Center, it's smaller than other places, so that's what I heard. But yeah, the personal story is always the most important. The real people in the real world. That's what I mean. That's my memory from Anaheim. I know, Joel, that's your memory from Anaheim.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. Joel, any last thoughts on all the reveals, on everything about Celebration, and also for both of you, thoughts about Japan?
Oh yeah, this was an interesting celebration for sure. Especially in terms of announcements. I think they want to really ramp up the movie side again. Writer strike hopefully doesn't get too dramatic, but outside of that, it does seem like Lucasfilm themselves have a little bit more in the machine, in the tank with regard to the film side. Maybe with the exception of the Mangled film, but he's just finishing up Indy. But it seems like the Obey Chinoy thing is a lot more further in development than most things Filoni's not going anywhere, so like that film is probably the most guaranteed. But it does seem like they're going to ramp up that again. Obviously you're getting ready for Acolyte. I'm surprised there wasn't another TV show announced. But I guess maybe they're cutting back on Disney Plus, or maybe they're just going to be a little more selective. I don't know. We got Bad Batch season 3, so obviously the animation side, we're getting our little trilogy again of seasons, and Tales of the Jedi season 2. And again, the kind of my takeaway from Paper Can is still High Republic's like the last hurrah, but it seems like with everything else, maybe because there's still a lot of screen stuff going on in different eras, they're not ready to like have things touched just yet. But again, who knows? Maybe New York Comic Con will change that perspective. It's like Dominic said, they've never been great with the publishing stuff from that point of view. So there's that. But no, overall, I thought it was really good in terms of just the announcements and trailers and stuff like that. So, in terms of Tokyo, I mean, I'm not going because it's too far away, but I'm glad the international people continue to get their stride. Especially Star Wars. Oh, and Visions too. We got some Visions stuff, so that was cool.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I feel bad for you guys, man, because I think a lot of people in America were banking on first of all Celebration being next year in America. And then they realize, oh, it's 2025. It's like, oh yeah, they'll definitely have it. So people that probably weren't feeling as bad for missing London, and now the same people that were thinking London was far, well, they're probably not going to make it to Japan. So now those poor people are going to have to wait till probably 2026 or 2027. So I feel for the people out there I feel for the people out there that were holding out to be in America next time, because you would think it's like boom, they're gonna share, like go back to America in 2025 and then do Japan in 2026. That would be the logical thing, like to have the international, then have the domestic switch off. So but I mean, I was, and then when they said, I was like, oh, okay, it's gonna be on the East Coast. I'm like, dang it, they still don't have it on the East Coast. Like, what the heck, guys?
Right? Yeah, like Orlando would have made so much sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they might be not doing Orlando anymore. A, because it's like smaller,
and the politics.
And B, because they totally screwed up like the line situation at one time. So I don't think like Reed Pop wants to do much over there anymore. That's what I heard. But I mean, that could be, I don't know.
And the state politics and all that stuff. But that might be different by the time then. Who knows?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm happy for Japan and Stat Culture Asia to see it. 2 years is a long time.
True.
So what I've been saying is like I plan to go there, but a lot can happen in life in 2 years. So but I plan to go to every celebration that they're gonna have from here on until I die, maybe. Unless major life changes happen where I have like major commitments that I have to do. But right now I have a job that I'm fortunate enough that I can save up PTO, and it's okay if I leave for 2 weeks. But if I get into higher management or something, that might not be the case. And I might not be able to have all that time off, because if you go to Japan, you're going to need at least 10 days, 2-3 days to acclimate, and 2-3 days to come back to acclimate. One thing I noticed, I don't know if you guys noticed this, Japan is only going to be a 3-day celebration. Did you see that?
That's true. Yeah, I saw that too.
Like, what the heck? We've never had a celebration that small before.
I hope they change
that. And also, it's I kind of find that weird, because like, you're going to a different country just for 3 days. I mean, stay a week. If I were going to Japan, I'm like, I would stay 2 weeks or.
Well, I went to a different country last year, and I stayed the week.
Exactly.
Like, actually, London is about the same distance to me than Anaheim is.
California, so. It was almost the same distance. Yep.
Yeah. So, but we'll always have New York Comic Con. We'll always have Fan Expo Canada. You guys are all welcome to Fan Expo Canada if you want in August.
But as far as what they could do is, obviously they're going to promote the 2025 movie. I think that's going to be the kickoff for the promotion there.
Hopefully,
and it's like, okay,
the writer strike.
That's true.
I'm keeping an eye on that writer strike. I'm sorry, that's my obsession of the week.
Yeah.
But then it's like you have one big day for whatever comes next in the Mandoverse at that point.
Yeah,
it's just like 3 days. Like, damn, that's not enough.
Because there's going to be no more High Republic to, celebrate.
Oh, yeah.
So there's going to be a High Republic panel for sure.
I think the last book will probably be still coming out around then.
Yeah,
So
probably true. Yeah.
they'll still have like a wrap up panel. Because like what I liked about this celebration is they had a couple panels that were looking back. There's always like so much looking forward at Celebration, from the Obi-Wan panel to the Return of the Jedi panel to the Andor panel, which did look at season 2, but it was mostly about season 1. And I like the Andor making of panel because, and you can watch it on the live stream. They didn't even have the cast. It was just the costume designer, the production, like the people that you normally don't ever see on the stage talking about it were there breaking down every little thing. So there was like no more, they don't have to worry about spoilers because it's people have seen it, so they can go into detail about the making of. So I liked stuff like that. This celebration, I watched the cosplay competition live for the first time. So it was nice. Now that I've been to several celebrations at this point, I could start like doing the smaller things. I know what to expect from certain panels. So I'm like, okay, I could watch that later on the live stream or something like that. But for me, that's cool. But yeah, Japan, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully I could be there. The only other, like the money situation is not that bad. I think it's like 1,000 round trip. So it's not terrible. And the problem is that the damn plane ride from New Jersey is like damn near the whole day from it's literally like 16 hours. So I don't know how the heck I'm going to survive, like, because the plane ride to London was not good for me because the previous night I didn't sleep because I'm too excited. I flew out at 8 p.m. and then I had Quest for Planet X in my hands trying to read the book, but then like I'm also trying to sleep and that's not working. So I went for like 20, probably 30 something hours before I slept. So and that was only a 7-hour flight. So I'm like, how am I gonna over double a flight time and not go crazy?
So what you do is you fly to Toronto first. It's not gonna make a difference. I'm gonna try and save up, see what happens. I mean,
do it.
It's my 40th birthday.
Do it.
Right on there, but it's only 3 days, so I don't know. See if it's worth it. I like Dom's
that's
idea.
Why you go for like a week.
Yeah, for sure. I like Dom's idea of it being a multi-site. Like, or not the next one, but having multi-site celebration in New York and in Anaheim and in Tokyo and in Berlin or whatever. Just having like, because it's the 21st century. We can do that. The internet has.
You mean like having at the same time, like, a certain panel's happening in New York.
Yeah.
And then a certain panel's happening in Japan.
Something, I don't know what his idea is specifically, but something like that. I mean, it would be smaller in each place, but it might be the way to go. Because again, it's the 21st century. We're talking, we're talking New Jersey and Irvine and Toronto, no time lag or anything. It's easy.
That's great. It's great.
So yeah, I'm happy with Hierarcholic being king. That's all I'll say about Celebration. Just that alone, and the fact that it's so important to what Star Wars is right now. I'm happy to see that. Hopefully, the next thing is just going to be just as big, just as good. At that, we've run long. We've run. This is a decent, meaty prime rib, double cheeseburger podcast.
Longest episode so far? I don't know what's been our longest episode.
Probably the one that Chris was on when we talked about High Republic.
I think it was,
yeah. So that's all we got. So Joel, do you want to maybe take us home?
Yeah, I'll take us home. All right. I think that's a good place to wrap up for this week. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Let us know what you thought of our conversation tonight. Comment below and let us know. Of course, you can follow us at. Wait.
Sorry, I did. Forgot.
There we go. At the Ion Cannon Pod. Again, at Ion Cannon Pod on the Twitters. On the Twitters where we post stuff and all that good stuff.
And on Instagram too. We're there too.
And of course, you can follow me at JID2021. Again, JID2021. Where can they follow you, Matthew?
I'm on Twitter at NEUG45, Instagram MNEUG1138. But then, most importantly, last but not least, Chris, thanks for joining us as always.
And feel free to plug anything.
Yes.
Oh, it's always awesome to just dive deep into the books, man, because I don't get a chance to do that often. Most of my friends are like, "Oh, what book do I start with in Star Wars?" Which is always a great question, but it's not often I could geek out and get into the weeds with these things. And so I always appreciate you inviting me on here. As far as where you can find me on YouTube, mainly youtube.com/StarRaptor. I'm constantly looking at the comics. I reviewed like 10 comics in about 20 minutes when I came back from Europe.
You did it.
A big thick stack of comics. Like I've never done 10 comics in a row, but I managed to do it. So you can always look forward to that. As I was talking about, I'll have my review for the High Republic books I'm reading on there. And I also have my Outer Rim Transmission podcast that I do myself with Milton and Ben. That goes up every Friday. Generally, it's like just Star Wars news, what's going on around the fandom, just general talk. About an hour and a half to 2 hour shows every Friday, and they're available thereafter on every Monday to download on any of your podcast apps of choice. And you can find me on Twitter talking about video games and more Star Wars at Star Raptor. And you might be seeing me talk a lot about Jedi Survivor, but then again, I might not be on social media because I don't want spoilers. I know Wednesday they're opening up the floodgates reviews, and I'm like, okay, you're not going to catch me on social media until I beat the game. Right. I can't have another incident with like the Force Awakens where I get spoiled, and then I'm like, no.
Oh yes, run, hide. I had a friend who got spoiled for the second to last episode of Mandalorian because someone decided to put Pelion's face in one of their thumbnails. It's like, dang.
I had Teller and Beck spoiled.
Oh,
remember that? So, anyway, sorry.
Keller and Beck again? I'm sorry, I forgot who that is.
Jar Jar.
Best character.
Yes. Sorry, I know. I think like the name I remember. So that's my blank.
Anyway, I'll get haven't spilled it.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Week are we?
I think we're Mandalorian season 3.
Okay. We shall do the Mandalorian season 3 overview. Even though we kind of did a little bit of a mini one this week, but we'll dive deeper. Let's dive deeper into the season, see what happens. All right, everybody. Thank you again, and everybody, let's blow this thing and go home.